A series of electronic beeps sounded around him. A distinct click echoed in the quiet space. Kanji-aku groaned, realizing it was already morning and dreading the trip to school. He looked around, confused by his surroundings. A voice demanded to know who he was. Kanji-aku stared at his reflection, questioning his own identity. He recognized the sinister expressions of characters from the game Go Fuhrer. The realization hit him. He was Kanji-aku, the villain from Go Fuhrer. He wondered if he had somehow been reincarnated into the world of Go Fuhrer. If he was Kanji-aku, and this was Go Fuhrer, then his low stats and the death loops were real. Kanji-aku stared at the screen, the word "Bui" stark against the dark background. He recognized Wei as the game's term for character ability lists, a crucial mechanic. Kanji-aku grumbled as the ability list for his own character popped up, confirming his fears. His stats were abysmal, with communication skills and charm at rock bottom, and intelligence repeated endlessly. He pinched himself, the sting confirming this was no dream. He had truly reincarnated into the game. Kanji-aku questioned if his head was a happy meal, then turned to Ogasawara, asking if he was listening. He decided to check the game's tips section, clicking on the relevant option. The tips offered hints for conquering characters and advice based on his game progress, urging him not to give up. Suddenly, Kanji-aku glanced at the clock, realizing with alarm that it was time for school. He quickly decided to change into his school uniform. Kanji-aku marveled at the sight of the uniform, excited to finally wear it. This meant he was actually attending school in this world. Kanji-aku marveled that the heroines were actually at the school, contemplating conquering them, like in the game. He imagined one of them might tell him to open wide. Another might offer him a place to rest his head on her lap. He pictured himself holding hands with them. Kanji even fantasized about kissing one of them, a soft chew. He confidently believed he could easily make them his wives, but then stopped himself with a SMA. Attending school had suddenly become a thrilling prospect for Kanji. Kanji realized this was not the Hatano family's house, noting the year 2011. He observed that the names matched those from the game. The situation struck Kanji as absolutely incredible. A realization dawned on Kanji as he processed the events. Confirming his reincarnation, Kanji-aku recognized the game world he knew. He recognized the familiar gates of Suzumigana High School. A nearby voice exclaimed in surprise. Another gasped, recognizing a girl with long hair, asking if it was Akira. A third voice confirmed it was indeed Akira Tomosada, the game's most difficult heroine. Kanji-aku's eyes widened at Akira Tomosada's affection level, displayed as -25. He worried he wouldn't even get to speak with her, but refused to accept it. He recalled the game's warning about the goddess at the entrance, and the risk of death. Suddenly, the warning about being killed at first sight flashed in his mind again. Another thought surfaced. The game's cryptic rules might already be in motion. His pulse quickened as he realized the stakes were no longer hypothetical. Admiring Akira, the silver-haired girl called her incredibly cute. Greeting Kanji-aku, the pink-haired girl dubbed him Aki. Kanji-aku recognized the familiar effect taking hold. Displayed were 3 dialogue options. "You're as pretty as ever this morning," "Ignore her," and "Morning." Offering 3 dialogue choices. "You're as pretty as ever this morning," "Ignore her," and "Morning." A trio of options materialized. "You're as pretty as ever this morning," "Ignore her," and "Morning." Kanji-aku realized everyone had frozen, waiting for his choice, the mechanic feeling unsettlingly game-like. He decided the safest option was to simply greet her back with "Morning." The pink-haired girl let out a light laugh. She responded to Kanji-aku's greeting with "Morning." Yua screamed a warning at Kanji-aku, who barely registered the danger. Kanji-aku cried out, convinced he had just died from the impact. He mused that the dream had felt far too real to be mere fantasy. Kanji-aku realized he had been in an accident. If it were a dream, he'd have returned to being Yudo Hatano. He confirmed it wasn't a dream, as the place and room were identical to before. Kanji Aku noticed his life gauge had decreased, lamenting the loss of his vitality. He questioned the strange situation he found himself in. A comforting sense of familiarity washed over Kanji Aku, like returning home, as he resolved not to surrender, clinging to their designated meeting place, and the countless times he'd stood here before. Remembering their promised meeting spot, Kanji Aku steeled himself against doubt, refusing to abandon hope despite the cyclical nature of his struggles. Vowing not to give up, Kanji Aku anchored himself to the memory of their agreement, his resolve hardening with each repetition of this wearying trial. This familiar scenario had repeated itself once more, observed Kanji Aku, though its recurrence now felt less like a curse and more like a test he'd sworn to endure. Each time he faced this challenge, Kanji Aku revisited the same crossroads, yet the echo of their pact kept his steps steady and his purpose unbroken. The weight of past encounters pressed on Kanji Aku, but he recognized the pattern not as a trap, but as a path he'd chosen to walk until their reunion. A pink-haired girl greeted him warmly, calling him Aku. His suspicion confirmed, Kanji realized he had to choose again, and complimented her bright appearance. Kanji Aku wondered if his death had been mere coincidence, as the original game never featured fatal choices. He resolved to test his theory, needing to confirm if the death was a guaranteed outcome or simply bad luck. The pink-haired girl then addressed him as ASP. A sudden shout warned him to watch out. Kanji Aku exclaimed that he had known this moment would come. Kanji Aku realized he had only 80 points of life remaining. This was no dream, and wrong choices as the villain meant death. His body throbbed with a terrible ache, a stark reminder of the agony he desperately sought to avoid. He mused that conquering the Heroine seemed the only way to break free from the death loop, then paused. Kanji deduced that since choosing option 1 led to this outcome, one of the others must be the correct path. He decided to skip this particular memory. The scene shifted, revealing a bright morning. Kanji steeled himself, vowing not to repeat his mistake and preparing for the day ahead. He reasoned that if option 1 was wrong, then option 2 must surely be the correct choice. Kanji began to compliment someone, his voice faltering slightly. He finished, telling her she was as pretty as ever this morning. Reacting with surprise, she called him a creep for such forward words so early. Blushing furiously, she mumbled something about breakfast needing attention. Shifting awkwardly, she redirected the conversation to the overcast sky outside. Kanji Aku gasped, clutching his chest as a wave of sharp pain washed over him. He looked down at his hands, bewildered, asking if this was his own blood. A voice urgently called out, urging him to hold on. Kanji Aku cried out in agony, lamenting his terrible death and the life force he felt draining away. He pleaded to return to the real world, overwhelmed by the pain and terror of his current situation. He realized this game was nothing like he remembered. The protagonist was supposed to meet the heroine and grow close. Kanji Aku recalled the original plot, where the protagonist and heroine would flirt and develop their relationship. He understood then that he wasn't playing as the player's protagonist, but as Kanji Aku, the villain. Yua Minamoto greeted him cheerfully, wishing him a good morning. Kanji Aku considered his role as the villain, realizing a crucial truth. He concluded this path was the only viable option left for him. Someone complimented the pink-haired girl, calling her pretty. Kanji Aku noted that his current choice deviated from the original protagonist's actions. The pink-haired girl asked if anything was happening, her voice laced with anticipation. The silver-haired girl reluctantly told Kanji Aku to greet her, adding she wasn't doing it out of desire. She explained her role as discipline committee required it, and that Akira's coldness would soften as his affection grew. Kanji-aku mentally listed the bubbly childhood friend, Yua Minamoto, and the prim honor student, Mikako Hawaii. He then identified the Sunder, half-Japanese, blonde heroine Elena Hirazumi, observing them in person. Kanji-aku realized there were 4 other heroines in the class besides Akira Tomosada. He recognized the game's protagonist, Shun Ogasawara, among the students. Observing Shun Ogasawara's popularity, Kanji-aku noted that it far exceeded his in-game persona's appeal. Noticing choices materializing, Kanji-aku opted to bypass the gloomy-looking Shun Ogasawara for now. Recognizing the event, Kanji-aku recalled his past habit of making barbed remarks toward the protagonist. Pondering his reincarnation, Kanji-aku questioned why he'd been reborn into this world as himself. He worried about potential death loops if he failed to select the correct options. Kanji observed his own gloomy demeanor that early morning. He resolved to become a villain, or do whatever was necessary to survive. A panicked voice exclaimed, "Eek, I'm so sorry." Kanji noted that nothing was happening, meaning he had chosen the right option all night. Despite having no inherent advantages, Kanji vowed to use his game knowledge to surpass anyone. The option 2A was presented. Kanji demanded, "Hey, lend me your face for a bit, damn." He tried to get someone's attention, asking, "Igno Red, are you listening?" The person responded, "Igno Red, hey." Kanji then greeted them with Igno Red Haya. Kanji-aku despaired over his abysmal Wei stats, noting they were too low for even basic conversation, unlike Shun's. Yua Minamoto tilted her head, a question forming. Yua mused that Akira had greeted her that morning, despite her own low Wei stat. She wondered if this meant she had a chance with Akira, recalling the game's original plot. Yua then asked Ogasawara if he liked someone. Ogasawara stammered, surprised Yua was talking to him, and asked who she meant. Yua deflected, stating she was fair to everyone, even delinquents. She teased Ogasawara, mentioning he looked sad when he glanced over earlier. Yua chuckled, noticing his brooding expression. Ogasawara seemed puzzled by her comment. Yua remarked that Akira Tomosada seemed to lack romantic experience. She declared him the most difficult character to win over, because of this inexperience. The pink-haired girl watched Kanji-aku flirt with other heroines, choosing to observe from afar. She noted how Kanji-aku got along well with many girls, though her own hidden affection and trust issues kept her from falling for him. Kanji-aku overheard talk of his deal, asking if unrequited love was painful and stating it had nothing to do with him. A choice appeared. 1. Stay silent. 2. Offer to listen to worries. Or 3. Sit back and watch. Kanji-aku acknowledged the third option was correct. Kanji-aku realized the critical choices had finally presented themselves. The word "wei" flashed across the screen. Kanji-aku's affection points, previously negative, began to rise, making him wonder if the earlier exchange was the cause. He recognized the choice presented, noting the protagonist would pick option 2, but he himself was different. A beep sound effect was displayed. Kanji-aku selected the option to sit back and watch, accepting the situation. The word "see you" flashed briefly. An ellipsis indicated a pause or unspoken thought. Kanji-aku let out a relieved sigh, thinking he hadn't made the wrong choice. A hesitant voice called out. The voice continued, "Wait!" Kanji-aku turned, and the pink-haired girl asked if he wanted to talk after school, specifically about Ogasawara. She confirmed that's right. Yep, she's cute. The girl confessed her struggles with communication and expressing her feelings. She realized with sadness that she could never become Ogasawara's favorite, no matter how hard she tried. This realization made her feel sad. Kanji-aku commented, "That's painful, isn't it?" Suddenly, the pink-haired girl cried out, "Udabawe, Aya. Why the heck are you crying, you? Jiros." Kanji-aku explained that this was part of the plot, that he had cried when it first happened, and hearing his favorite character say it made him emotional. The pink-haired girl wondered why Kanji Aku had told her about his worries. The silver-haired girl offered Kanji something, saying, "Here, use it." Kanji hesitated, asking if she was sure about lending it to him. She readily agreed, stating she didn't mind parting with it. The pink-haired girl promised Kanji she would wash it and return it to him. She playfully teased him, calling him Akira and telling him not to worry about it. Kanji mused that Ogasawara was a great guy, a fact he knew well from playing the game. He recognized Ogasawara's inherent goodness, noting his inability to ignore someone in trouble. Kanji acknowledged Tomasada's pain, but understood his attraction to Ogasawara's kindness, also noting Tomasada's awkwardness with girls. Kanji realized that while Ogasawara seemed to be the focus, the speaker had been observing him closely too. The speaker confirmed that she had indeed been observing Kanji. Kanji looked surprised, asking what she meant by that. From Yua's perspective, she felt it would be difficult to make Kanji Aku fall for her now. She considered 3 plans: the skimpy uniform plan, the homely appeal with lunchboxes plan, and the pulling through with cold behavior plan. Yua decided the lunchbox plan was best since Kanji Aku was bad at cooking, finding her hard work endearing, but then second-guessed it as personal preference. She quickly corrected herself, concluding that the cold behavior plan was the way to go. Yua declared they would proceed with the pulling through with cold behavior plan to get his attention. She then panicked, realizing she already treated Ogasawara coldly and feared she had made a mistake. Kanji Aku heard her outburst and asked what was wrong. The pink-haired girl urgently told Kanji Aku to look behind him. A chill raced down Kanji Aku's spine as a terrible premonition gripped him. His hands trembling, Kanji Aku turned to face the threat behind him. Agony surged through Kanji Aku as he staggered backward, bewildered by the second stab wound. Desperately, Kanji Aku attempted to parry the strike, but the blade slipped past his guard. The realization hit Kanji Aku like a thunderclap. His health bar plummeted 20 points, not 10, and 0 meant oblivion. He vowed to himself that he would never choose the wrong option again. Kanji considered 2 plans: the homely appeal with lunchboxes and the pulling through with cold behavior plan. He mused that plan 2 was likely the correct choice if plan 3 wasn't. The idea was to make lunchboxes for him, appealing to his love for food with a homely touch. Kanji hesitated, realizing he rarely cooked and feared he'd be laughed at, but then corrected himself, thinking the effort was key. He cursed them, telling them not to enjoy their youth so happily. Kanji cried out in distress. A voice warned Akira to watch out. Kanji's eyes widened in alarm. Kanji Aku questioned the school's security as a voice called out his name, AKU. He considered 2 options: a skimpy uniform or a homely appeal. Someone advised showing more feminine charms and making the uniform skimpy to reveal more skin. The speaker, identifying as a disciplinary committee member, stated she couldn't do that. Kanji noted that the girl's reaction had changed from earlier dejection. He concluded that the proposed approach was precisely the right one. Kanji mused that a disciplined disciplinary committee member dressing casually would create a gap that would attract the gloomy boy. He then asked if he should consider removing his tights, eliciting a surprised reaction. Kanji thought, so hot, recognizing the potential of the impregnable, most difficult heroine. He saw that Akira Tomasada's affection level had risen to 45, and resolved to maintain it. Kanji thanked the person for their advice, and promised to do his best tomorrow, receiving a wish for good luck in return. The next day dawned, marking a new turn of events. A voice called out Akira, startling Kanji Aku. The pink-haired girl, calling him Aki, shyly presented her new look, asking for his opinion on the makeover. Kanji Aku stared, utterly taken aback by the transformation. The pink-haired girl urged Ogasawara to speak, her excitement palpable as she pulled him forward. Ogasawara commented that the way the pink-haired girl, Tomasada, was dressed suited her well. Acknowledging Ogasawara's compliment, Tomasada seemed pleased by his observation. Her posture softening slightly, Tomasada adjusted the sleeve of her blazer with quiet consideration. A faint smile gracing her lips, Tomasada thanked him before glancing toward the council room door. Excusing herself with a brief nod, Tomasada noted she still had unfinished student council matters. Kanji Aku found Ogasawara's praise nonsensical, expecting it to bring him happiness but feeling none. He questioned why he was thinking about Aku, his mind clearly troubled by the unexpected turn of events. Kanji Aku heard a soft sound nearby. Someone announced that homeroom was starting. A girl questioned the announcement. She noted that Akira was not present. Kanji Aku considered his options. Wait, remember Akira, or leave the classroom. He worried about his remaining 30 lives, and a system notification that something had occurred. Kanji Aku remembered a warning and knew he couldn't afford another wrong choice. A student asked the teacher for permission to go to the toilet. The teacher granted permission, and the student acknowledged it. Kanji Aku confirmed he had chosen correctly, reinforcing his belief that something had indeed happened. He found himself in the gym storage, a place he had anticipated for this moment. Kanji Aku acknowledged the situation he was in. Kanji Aku questioned if the situation was related to the disciplinary committee. The pink-haired girl accused Kanji Aku of trying to pull something, but he retorted that it was her line. She then accused him of trying to seduce them with a skimpy outfit, demanding he say something. Kanji Aku denied it, stating she was the one wearing a sexy outfit and trying to seduce them, but he just wanted to impress the person he loved, and that was all. Suddenly, a voice yelled to get their filthy hands off Akira. The pink-haired girl explained heroes were supposed to end up with the protagonist. Jun then confronted Kanji Aku, demanding if he was trying to get in his way. Jun declared he wouldn't allow it, punching Kanji Aku and noting a true fan wouldn't approve. The silver-haired girl asked Kanji Aku if he was hurt. Kanji Aku replied he was fine, thanking her for saving him. The silver-haired girl apologized, admitting she was the one who caused it by making him dress up. Kanji Aku wondered what had suddenly come over him. He realized his happiness wasn't from Ogasawara's praise, but from someone else. Kanji Aku exclaimed in shock, asking what was happening. He noted the affection level at 100, believing he could do whatever he pleased. Kanji Aku questioned if he had been saved many times before, as the same thing seemed to repeat. He found it strange, as this was supposed to be the first time. Kanji Aku began to explain that, because of what had been done, something was unfolding. The girl confessed she seemed to have fallen for him, asking if he was sure he was fine with her. Kanji Aku observed that some development had occurred which never took place in the original game. He declared that he had now finished conquering her. With this, Kanji Aku declared he could finally depart this world. His voice trembling, Kanji Aku admitted his escape was no longer certain. Realizing he was one step from kissing Yua, Kanji Aku cursed his misfortune. He exclaimed in frustration, wondering why things had gone so wrong. He lamented being one step away from kissing her, cursing his luck. Kanji Aku noticed the rift. He wondered how his life had suddenly healed. He questioned if he could even go back if he succeeded, or if he needed to start over. Yua Minamoto greeted him, calling him Aku. He noted Yua's affection level should be negative, yet she seemed fine. Yua asked Kanji Aku what was wrong, then gasped as if realizing something. Kanji Aku's affection level with Akira Tomasada was marked as conquered complete. Yua Minamoto asked if Kanji Aku was concerned about Ogasawara, noting how much he had been in her care. Yua Minamoto paused, questioning what she had just said. She wondered if Akira had unconsciously remembered everything she had done so far. Kanji Aku recalled that conquering a heroine triggered a loop, rewriting all relationships, and greeted Tomasada. Kanji Aku responded with a simple "yeah, morning." He stated that in order to escape this world, he would need the heroine who held affection for the protagonist. Kanji Aku reflected on the process of going through loops, acknowledging that he was Kanji Aku, dying again and again. He had realized this after repeated deaths. Kanji Aku reflected on how he navigated death loops by leveraging his game knowledge. He had finally managed to conquer one of the game's heroines, Akira Tomasada. Yua Minamoto noted Kanji Aku's punctuality and introduced him to Akira Tomasada, whose affection level was now conquered. Kanji Aku internally insisted his true self was never late, prompting Yua to question him. He mused that Yua couldn't possibly know his true identity as Hatano. Yua then abruptly asked Kanji Aku if he had stopped dressing provocatively. She reminded him of his past habit of wearing very short skirts and emphasizing his chest, which Kanji Aku denied remembering. Kanji Aku questioned if Yua was mistaking him for someone else, stating he'd never wear his uniform that way. Yua then asked if he remembered saying he loved her, to which Kanji Aku stammered a confession, but Yua dismissed it, clearly not remembering. Kanji Aku wondered if all memories of his successful roots were erased after conquering a heroine, noting Yua seemed normal now, but not as before. He lamented that he couldn't flirt with Akira and demanded his fluttering feelings back. Elena's bodyguard snapped, demanding to know what Kanji Aku was doing. He threatened to tear Kanji Aku apart before recognizing Elena's presence. The bodyguard exclaimed in awe upon seeing Elena herself. He commented on Elena's silky blonde hair and long eyelashes. He felt Elena's mere presence was overwhelming the senses. Musing on his own way of progressing, Kanji Aku considered its alignment with game mechanics. Realization dawned on Kanji Aku that his way had improved since conquering Tomasada, mirroring stat gains and rank ups. Through conquering Tomasada, Kanji Aku recognized his way had evolved, paralleling the game's progression systems. He believed Elena's stats might make a conversation with her possible. Elena's bodyguard apologized for blocking the way, calling Kanji Aku bulky trash. Kanji Aku noted Elena wasn't close to Ogasawara yet, making it easier for him, the villain, to interfere. Kanji mused that since Elena wasn't close with Ogasawara yet, he could easily insert himself between them and conquer her next. A voice announced that everyone should decide who they wanted to pair with. Kanji saw this as his chance to finally strike up a conversation with Elena. He resolved to ask her to pair up, hoping to initiate her route. Kanji declared it was time for choices, ready to begin the Elena route. He considered the options: greet her, lend me your face, lend me some money, or pair up with me, dismissing the greeting as incorrect. Kanji clicked option 1, reasoning that as a villainous character, it was the appropriate choice. He selected the option to lend me your trace for a bit. Elena's voice spat back that dirt like him should burn away and disappear. Kanji panicked, questioning if he had chosen correctly and fearing another death loop from his mistake. Elena's bodyguard declared he would eliminate any insolent male students as per his orders. Realizing the grim truth, Kanji Aku gasped as horror dawned upon him. Desperately seeking solutions, Kanji Aku's mind raced to halt the impending bloodshed. Forced to act, Kanji Aku knew seconds remained before the bodyguard executed his deadly orders. A scream of pure terror erupted from someone nearby. Another pained cry echoed through the area. Kanji Aku realized he had died and been revived, understanding the loop would restart with wrong choices. He questioned why wrong choices led to death, noting how impassively the guards killed people in this game world. Kanji Aku wondered if he was receiving this horrible treatment because he was considered a villain. Someone exclaimed, "All right," with clear enthusiasm. Kanji Aku saw that the choices he had made were now reset, available again. Kanji Aku noted that the man in black was likely Elena's bodyguard, sent by her father and overly protective for a good reason. He muttered about needing to choose the correct option to avoid losing more life, questioning which choice was right. Kanji pondered the meaning of the morning greeting, finding it particularly intriguing. He decided to just try one of the options presented to him. A dismissive voice told him not to talk to her, calling him and then added a curt warning with a huff. Kanji felt a sudden sense of dread wash over him. He exclaimed in shock, wondering why villains faced such harsh punishment for making wrong choices, followed by a clicking sound. Elena's voice called out to him, telling him not to worry and giving him a thumbs up. A sickening sound echoed, making Kanji feel like his head would split, cursing the booby traps. Kanji Aku checked his status, realizing his life was already down to 80 and that messing up a single scene was incredibly rough. He understood that in this world, failing to conquer a heroine meant death, forcing a restart from bed with reduced life. Elena was a rich tsundere, her foul mouth softening as the player progressed through her route. Realizing Elena's background with her father presented a perfect opportunity, Kanji seized the chance to advance his plan. Swiftly shifting tactics, Kanji targeted the silver-haired girl's vulnerabilities with calculated precision. Approaching the silver-haired girl, Kanji steadied his resolve to test an unorthodox strategy. He asked the silver-haired girl for money, but she scoffed that trash like him wouldn't grasp its true value. He wondered if this was the right choice, as nothing seemed to be changing. The silver-haired girl questioned why he was asking, noting his wealth, before telling him to drop dead. Kanji had expected his approach to work, but her cold retort was unexpected and confusing. Just like in the game, she remained prickly, making conversation impossible, and leaving him unsure of his next move. He recalled a specific in-game event that was supposed to bring the protagonist and this girl closer. Suddenly, Elena appeared, thanking someone for catching a ball, as if materializing from thin air. Yua apologized, explaining she was too swamped with work to make it to a party. Kanji realized the home party was the key trigger for Elena's route and resolved to attend. The pink-haired girl asked to join the party, but Elena refused, citing her plants, before mentioning she'd bring Ogasawara. Elena questioned why Ogasawara was being brought along, seeing through the girl's clumsy attempt to play innocent. According to the original plot, Elena had developed feelings for Ogasawara after he saved her from a minor predicament at the school entrance. Elena's bodyguard asked if she had sent an invitation to Ogasawara, and was surprised when she asked how he knew. The bodyguard confidently stated that he knew everything. Kanji observed that the situation was unfolding precisely as it had in the game. Elena claimed she hadn't invited Ogasawara because she thought he'd be busy, but Kanji saw through her prickly defensiveness. Elena reluctantly agreed to let Ogasawara come, though she was secretly delighted by the prospect. Kanji mused that despite her sharp exterior, Elena was likely overjoyed, finding her tsundere nature quite endearing. He noted the class designation 2A. Kanji then turned his attention to Ogasawara, who suddenly appeared with a startled exclamation. Ogasawara informed Kanji about a party at Hirazumi's house next weekend, which Kanji initially tried to decline due to prior plans. After some hesitation, Kanji relented and agreed to attend the party. Kanji observed that Ogasawara's stats remained unchanged since the game's early stages, still surpassing his own despite not having conquered a heroine. He wondered what Elena saw in Ogasawara, realizing he couldn't have a private conversation with Elena himself. Ogasawara expressed his anticipation for the event, to which Kanji awkwardly reciprocated. Kanji gasped in surprise at something unseen. He thought about how beautiful Akira looked in a dress, noting Ogasawara's special invitation, while he himself had not been invited. Tomosada confirmed his own invitation, mentioning that everyone seemed to have been invited. Kanji reacted with shock to Tomosada's statement, reiterating that Ogasawara was a special case, and he hadn't received an invitation, feeling excluded. A voice echoed, welcoming Kanji Aku as if from nowhere. Kanji Aku's eyes widened as he recognized the voice belonged to Elena. He noted Elena's striking beauty, her affection level having climbed thanks to Ogasawara's efforts. Elena told Ogasawara and Tomosada to enjoy themselves while she planned to do the same. A pink-haired girl who called Kanji Akuaki grumbled about being excluded. She accused them of having bad taste and starting a bullying campaign by not inviting her. Snapping, Elena accused the pink-haired girl of tarnishing the party's vibe, justifying her exclusion. Urging someone to hurry, Elena beckoned them to join her without delay. With a frosty glare, Elena condemned their hypocrisy in silent fury. A voice responded with a polite, "Yes, father." Cheers erupted from the hall as the scene unfolded. Someone wondered aloud if the man present was Elena's fiancé, asking if he was the one from Hiramizu. Kanji considered explaining Elena's game plot, though most of it was based on rumors. He recalled hearing the Hiramizu family had once endured severe poverty, which caused Elena's mother great hardship. A voice called out for Elena, announcing that the food was ready. A flashback showed a young Elena calling out to her mother. Despite their poverty from her father's failed business, Elena had cherished their family meals. To escape their difficult circumstances, Elena's father worked relentlessly, leaving most household duties to her mother. Elena's mother, already frail, succumbed to the stress and passed away young, with her father absent. Consumed by regret, her father believed his poverty had caused his wife suffering, and he redoubled his efforts to build his business. Despite his success, Elena harbored deep resentment, feeling her father only ever thought of himself and burdened her mother. Elena's father brought her into high society, hoping to ease her future path. Elena declared her mother's wish for her to be happy with the one she loves, defying her father's plans. Kanji realized their relationship was strained, impressed by Ogasawara's knowledge of Elena's family. Ogasawara explained he'd played the game countless times, which accounted for his deep understanding. Kanji noted that Ogasawara was originally supposed to be forced into marriage with Elena, but now intended to pursue her directly. Kanji mused that Elena's father, despite his intentions, seemed to have a screw loose. He understood Elena's poor communication skills likely fueled their disagreements. Kanji observed that Elena's father, Hirizumi, had returned. He wondered if Elena was all right. Yua warned that Elena would just snap if addressed, suggesting they leave her be, which Kanji agreed with, noting her foul mood. Kanji acknowledged Elena wouldn't ignore Ogasawara, but worried his interference could jeopardize his own pursuit of her. Kanji Aku mused that the food at this place was truly great. Yua Minamoto called out to him, "Aku." She then chided him, "Mind your manners." The pink-haired girl exclaimed, "Wah, I love her. I loathe her so much, thanks." She wondered if, even forgotten, her memories of him still remained. The pink-haired girl then said her goodbyes, "See you." A sound effect way. Kanji Aku noted he'd prevented the protagonist from entering Elena's route, raising her affection to level 20 from 9. He realized Elena viewed one suitor as a crush and another as a nasty acquaintance, requiring careful maneuvering for his conquest. Kanji considered using Ogasawara as bait to ask Elena out, thinking she'd appreciate a detour after school, unlike their previous missed opportunities. He envisioned gaining affection points and flirting with her for real, hoping it would actually work out. Yua Minamoto cheerfully invited Kanji Aku to hang out with her. Elena sharply rebuked Yua, telling her not to speak so casually and questioning if she thought they were friends just because she visited his house. Kanji Aku internally noted that Elena was just acting coy, and saw her resistance as a reward. Yua excitedly outlined a plan for herself, Kanji Aku, and Ogasawara to hang out, wondering what was happening to the plan. Yua confirmed the meeting for next Friday at 10 a.m. at the station, interpreting Elena's claim of being busy as a sign she wasn't being honest. Kanji Aku realized that involving Ogasawara was making his plan to conquer Elena work out smoothly. With a decisive nod, Yua declared, "All right." Considering the next day's challenges, Yua mused about needing to come up with a plan. Suddenly glancing at the map, Yua traced a route toward the northern ridge. Elena muttered, "Grab." Elena scornfully thought Kanji Aku was an idiot for thinking she would be happy about the plan, stating she wasn't going and finding his peasant-like thinking shallow. Kanji Aku reflected on never having hung out with friends in the city before. Kanji Aku reflected that his father dictated his every move after school. He recalled it was the first time someone had ever asked him to hang out. When Yua Minamoto asked if he had something to consult, Kanji confirmed. It was boredom that led Yua to claim she came for him. Claiming she had no other plans, Yua insisted it was mere coincidence. Kanji noted Yua arrived early, realizing she was indeed curious despite her claims. Yua exclaimed in wonder at the shops and sights of Niun, her first visit. When Kanji questioned if it was her first time, Yua vehemently denied it, claiming hundreds of visits, but her reaction betrayed her. Kanji told Elena Hiremizu to relax, noting her affection level increased, indicating happiness. Yua marveled at the game center, filled with stuffed dolls and sweets. She gasped, finding everything incredibly cute. Kanji Aku took stock of the situation. The pink-haired girl squealed over a cute item, offering it to the girl who called Kanjiaki. She hesitantly accepted it. They shared a cheap but delicious lunch, the pink-haired girl enthusing over the bustling food stalls. Showing off her new accessories, the pink-haired girl asked for her friend's opinion. The other girl agreed, they looked great. The girl who called Kanjiaki asked how many things the pink-haired girl had bought. The latter retorted defensively. The girl who called Kanjiaki reached out to take the items from the pink-haired girl. She gathered the purchases and, pulling her friend along, declared they should leave. The girl who called Kanjiaki announced her departure. Elena's bodyguard, clad in black, inquired how her day was. Elena grumbled it had been boring, though her affection for Kanji Aku had climbed to 40. Kanji Aku noted Elena's rising affection, a clear sign his conquest route was progressing. Elena's bodyguard suddenly looked up, as if sensing something. Morning light illuminated the room as Ogasawara made his entrance. He mused aloud that increased interaction naturally fostered closer bonds. Ogasawara decided it was time to initiate his own plan. He commented on Kanji Aku and Yua's constant companionship, then pointed out Elena had already made the first move. Kanji Aku replied he hadn't decided on his plans yet, asking if Ogasawara had any suggestions. Ogasawara reacted defensively, denying he'd implied anything, then noted Elena's dishonesty with a hint of amusement. Kanji Aku merely observed the unfolding dynamic. Ogasawara abruptly suggested they go to karaoke. Kanji Aku teased Ogasawara about his lack of musical talent, a claim Ogasawara vehemently denied. Ogasawara accepted the karaoke plan, boasting his singing prowess would leave Kanji Aku begging for mercy. Kanji Aku noted the emergence of new characters and considered his weakened options, deciding to take a more proactive approach with his male friends. He selected option 4, opting to invite Tap along. Kanji Aku wondered about the unfamiliar magical effect he had just witnessed. Yua insisted on going alone with Kanji, adamantly refusing any other company and convinced her current smooth talk was the correct strategy. She promised a fun time aided by his voice, but threatened dismemberment if it proved dull. Kanji Aku reasoned that he had no choice but to agree, since she promised it would be fun. Mika questioned why it had to be kanji, wishing Ogasawara had asked her out instead. Despite her initial reservations, Mika found she could speak openly with kanji, without any pretense. Kanji Aku observed the cramped karaoke rooms and the rigid seating arrangements dictated by the number of patrons. He declared to Elena that he would demonstrate precisely how villains conquer heroes. Elena cheered, calling him a singing princess and the world's cutest girl. Kanji Aku mocked Elena's desperation, finding her overly funny. Kanji Aku glanced at the clock, his own plans beginning to take shape. Elena scoffed, dismissing the idea that her father's wishes dictated her life, though she didn't fully understand them. She insisted they could still have fun, questioning if he was even listening. Elena declared she wouldn't blindly follow her father's commands. Elena's bodyguard announced it was time for her to leave. Kanji Aku cursed, recognizing the approaching security police here for Elena. He urged Elena to escape with him before they were caught. Kanji Aku commented on the security police's desperate measures. Elena explained they would bring her back and wouldn't hesitate to harm him. Kanji Aku confirmed he already knew this from past experience. Elena's bodyguard reported her escape and mentioned an unidentified young boy. Kanji Aku breathed a sigh of relief as the bodyguard finally departed. He wondered if these security police were new characters, appearing only when villains targeted heroines. Kanji observed the bodyguard's excessive protectiveness for no genuine reason. He understood the bodyguard's true motive, forcing Elena to marry into a prominent family to secure his own status. Kanji pondered his choices: ask Elena home, show compassion, hug her, or continue their outing. The option to hug Elena flashed in his mind, not entirely unwelcome, though he told himself it wasn't his desire. The choice hug her was option 3. Suddenly, a sharp gasp cut through the air. A startled cry of "Kia!" erupted nearby. Elena's bodyguard burst back in, shouting, "Miss Elena, it's not what it looks like. Please, don't shoot me." The bodyguard then yelled out Kanji's name, "AKU?" Kanji Aku felt a jolt of panic as his life points plummeted. He questioned his risky gamble, realizing it had been far too dangerous. Kanji noted how these unexpected characters, absent from the original game, were far more unpredictable. With his life points at a mere 50, Kanji Aku wondered about the consequences of reaching 0, a detail overlooked in typical games. He recalled the difficult choice presented: show compassion, tell Elena home, keep hanging out, or hug her, with telling her to go home being the toughest option. Kanji admitted he still wanted to spend time with Elena because he was enjoying himself, especially if Elena was serious. He confirmed his choice was to keep hanging out with her. Kanji mused that it wasn't too late and perhaps certain conditions could alter the outcome. He decided to continue spending time with Elena, disregarding his usual routine, despite the risk of the security police finding them. Kanji acknowledged he wouldn't be let off easily if caught again, but accepted the consequences, asking the silver-haired girl what she wanted. The silver-haired girl hesitated before speaking. She urged Kanji to seize the opportunity, reminding him he'd wanted to hang out despite his curfew and grown tired of being controlled. Kanji Aku clenched his fist, his thoughts racing. He muttered that he wouldn't be blamed if Yua got herself into a mess. Yua recounted how they had snuck past security just to spend time alone. She excitedly described trying ramen and crepes for the very first time. Yua marveled at the ramen, calling them dripping noodles. The clock showed 20:58 as Kanji Aku realized it was time for Yua to head home. Kanji Aku asked if their time together had helped clear Yua's mind. She was unsure. Yua confessed that the time they spent together felt far too short. Kanji Aku chuckled, telling Yua to come up with a good excuse for breaking curfew, which she assured him she already had. Yua thanked Kanji Yaku for staying out late with her and agreed to hang out again. Kanji Yaku noted that Elena Hiramizu's affection level had increased to 80. Elena's bodyguard, dressed in black, addressed her as Miss Elena. Kanji Yaku grumbled about his father calling, dreading a lecture. Suddenly, someone grabbed him, pulling him along despite his protests. He found himself in an unfamiliar underground room, a place he'd never seen before, where Sir Hiramizu awaited. Kanji Yaku stared in shock, exclaiming, "What is that?" His eyes widened further, stammering, "What is?" He could only repeat, "This room," in disbelief. He heard Elena's voice, responding weakly, "Elena, why yes?" A man's voice declared, "I've been waiting for you, my beloved Elena." A note stated that Hiramizu would miss school due to a cold, from class 2A. Kanji Yaku wondered what could have happened that day if Elena also took the day off. He recalled the same choices appearing during an ordeal with Akira, checking for a fever, suspecting she was faking, or if something happened to her, noting tardiness or missing class as a flag. He concluded that something happening to her must be the correct choice, then asked his sensei if he could go to the toilet, receiving hurried permission. Kanji Yaku realized this was an Elena route he hadn't encountered, his wedding as a villain having drastically altered the original story. He grumbled that all his messages to Yua were unread and unanswered, deciding to head to her house since class had already begun. Kanji Yaku sighed in relief, finding a usable terrace route to enter the building. He knew the security police would find him soon, so he hurried to locate Elena. Kanji Yaku was surprised to find a location that hadn't existed in the original game. Suddenly, a girl's scream pierced the air. Unseen by him, a shadow slithered into view. Kanji Yaku felt a chilling dread wash over him, unsure of what awaited. "I'll never forgive you if you've harmed him," a furious voice demanded, bewildered by the unfolding scene. Elena announced her position beyond the door, her voice tight with strain. A name rang out, "Hiramizu." The pink-haired girl gasped, recognizing Kanji Yaku and demanding his presence. She quickly asked if he was all right, her tone laced with concern. Then, she snapped at him to avert his gaze from her injuries, threatening him if he dared to stare. Kanji Yaku questioned the old man's motives, remarking that he wasn't supposed to be this type of character. He realized this particular event was absent from the original Elena route. The old man demanded Kanji Yaku's identity and purpose there. Kanji Yaku identified himself as Elena's friend, Kanji Yaku, retorting that the question was his to ask. He mused that an awkward father and daughter were meant to realize their feelings, even amidst conflict. Kanji Yaku rejected the notion of being moved by perverse fatherly love, insisting this was Elena's route. The old man dismissed Kanji Yaku's words as drivel and confirmed if he was the one from the previous day. The pink-haired girl demanded if Kanji had ever confessed to Elena, blaming his nature for her reserved behavior. This, she insisted, was a family matter and ordered him not to interfere. Then came her threat to Kanji. Desire a similar fate? He, in her eyes, had never done anything commendable. Nothing commendable had he ever done, she accused. Before screaming in frustration, she ordered him to stop playing father. Kanji shouted his vow to save Hiramizu. The pink-haired girl warned him against any rash actions. Kanji asked if she was unharmed and offered his thanks. The pink-haired girl looked on in shock, calling out to her father and questioning his actions. She then pleaded with him to cease calling him Aku. Kanji Yaku considered Hiramizu's pain insignificant compared to his own current torment. Yua pleaded with her father to stop hurting Kanji Yaku, who then commented that Yua had kanji wrapped around her finger. Yua questioned her father's peculiar way of speaking, criticizing his surveillance of her with the security police. She insisted that such monitoring was not the way to protect a daughter. Her father retorted, asking who she was to lecture him, stating it was his duty to discipline a daughter he felt was poorly raised. Yua presented 4 choices: discipline him, disciple him, or discipline him. Her father then declared, in that case, Yua vowed to be the one to discipline her poorly raised father. Her father mused that he had a few more things. Kanji Aku interjected, questioning if hurting one's daughter was discipline and urging the father to express affection with words. Kanji Aku assessed that they should be fine at this point. Yua cried out, scolding Kanji Aku for his recklessness and admitting she would worry if he died. Kanji Aku asked how she knew he was in that room. Yua claimed it was her game intuition. Yua then asked Kanji Aku what he planned to do, noting his house was in disarray. Kanji Aku explained he had an aunt living abroad from his mother's side, and considered asking her for care, describing her as kind like his mother. Yua softly acknowledged they would be separated for a while, her voice tinged with hesitation. Kanji Aku urged her to express her feelings with words if she truly cherished someone. Elena admitted her opinion of Kanji Aku had improved, recalling how he took her to many places and made her have fun despite the danger. Kanji Aku realized Elena remembered their past interactions, surprise flickering across his face. Elena continued, stating she was fond of him and hesitated to express more. She struggled to find the right words, wanting to phrase her feelings more carefully. Elena stammered, beginning to confess her feelings with a nervous tremor in her voice. Finally blurting out, "I fell in love with you, Aku." Elena then playfully called him an idiot for the embarrassing confession. Yua's voice trembled as she called out, "Why, Aku?" She pleaded, cheeks flushing, "Please be gentle, okay? It's my first time." Ogasawara lamented, "My dear Elena, don't tell me it happened again." Kanji Aku sighed, "Arg, another day has started yet again. I wonder what reaction Elena will show." He then noticed the silver-haired girl, calling out, "Oh, Hiramizu." The silver-haired girl responded, "Morning." "Oh, morning. My day is off to a terrible start, having a pleasant greet me first." Kanji Aku asked her, "Oh, so your father is the one that drove you to school?" She replied, "Yeah. Thanks to you, I got close with Dad." Kanji Aku mused, "Why did I think about you now? Dad, huh?" Having an honest heart-to-heart talk must have made their relationship better. The pink-haired girl, calling him Aki, sneered, "Well, whatever, move aside. Having a peasant like you crawl like a slug would suit you well." Kanji Aku thought, "With this, I conquered the second heroine. If she'll become happy just like Elena, then I can die for her, as many times as it takes." He reflected, "Back in my conquest of Tomasada, some things happened that had nothing to do with the plot." Kanji Aku reflected that his wedding had drastically altered the game's original events. He wondered if the plot had shifted, because he, the villain, had conquered Elena instead of Ogasawara. Kanji accepted the offer presented to him, surprised by the unexpected kindness. He dismissed the idea that the girl might like him, finding such misunderstandings chilling. Kanji accepted the offer presented to him, surprised by the unexpected kindness, and dismissed the idea that the girl might like him, finding such misunderstandings chilling. He mused that if he had followed the original path, he would have attended school and taken his classes. He would have simply chatted with Akira and Elena before eating lunch with them. Then, he would have gone home, slept, and repeated the same uneventful day. Kanji realized that without entering a heroine's route, his days would remain peaceful and unchanging, which he preferred. He declared his unwillingness to die, yet acknowledged he had no choice but to press onward. Kanji Aku noted that conquering Elena had increased his way and fully restored his life, preparing him for his next conquest. He pondered who his next target would be. Yua Minamoto, his childhood friend, playfully adjusted Kanji's bed hair, her easy affection a stark contrast to his own struggles. Mikako Hawaii, the school's cutest girl, possessed a charmingly demure yet strong-willed personality that captivated many. Mika's merchandise flew off the shelves, earning her the title Zeroth Girl, and making her the object of many players' affections. Ogasawara nervously stammered a greeting to Mika, who was on duty, while Kanji observed their awkward interaction. Kanji noted that most guys, like Ogasawara, would falter under the gaze of a knockout like Mika, a reaction he himself had experienced. Kanji checked his stats, seeing his communication skills and charm had improved, making him hopeful Mika wouldn't ignore him this time. Mika suddenly declared she needed to go to the teacher's room, cutting off Kanji's attempt to speak with her. Kanji deduced Mika wasn't ignoring him, but actively avoiding him, likely due to her low guts stat making her scared of him. He called out to Mika, apologizing profusely for startling her, and insisting he just wanted to talk. Kanji reiterated his apology, explaining he had no intention of scaring her, and simply wished to get to know her better. He observed Mika's teary eyes, fair skin, and pink cheeks up close, finding her quite cute in person. The appearance of choices indicated Kanji was entering Mika's route, forcing him to select an option like "because you're my classmate" or "because I love you." Kanji Aku considered his options, realizing that playing it safe with his low stats might not be the best strategy anymore. He decided that option 3 was the only logical choice, clicking it with a decisive sound. A girl's voice, flustered, asked if he was teasing her, mentioning other cute girls and a class journal. Kanji explained that he found her dirt-headed yet smart and strong-willed nature, contrasted with her sweetness, to be cute. The girl, now identified as Hawaii, remembered her task to fetch the class journal from the teacher. Kanji noted that the wretched Shun was getting in his way, and that Hawaii's affection level was dropping. Another girl, seemingly annoyed, asked if Ogasawara was today's special boy, commenting on popular girls having boys fawn over them. She then speculated that the popular girl was trying to stop the boys by hanging out with someone else, calling it hilarious before apologizing. Someone declared that those girls were villainous mobs jealous of Mika's popularity and were insulting her. Kanji wondered if Mika had been avoiding him and crying because she thought he was friends with those girls. Kanji stepped in, accusing the group of bumping into Hawaii on purpose and demanding an apology, earning disgusted reactions. Hawaii, tears in her eyes, stammered her thanks to Kanji, calling him Aku. Kanji Aku wondered why his route conquest showed zero progress despite picking the right option. He overheard someone asking Mika what she thought about an upcoming plan. Mika was invited to the station cafe for new menu items, a theme park, or mountain climbing that weekend. Kanji Aku mused that Mika's hobby explained why she refused all those offers. The pink-haired girl suddenly called out to Kanji Aku, noting his arrival was perfect timing. She offered Kanji Aku some items from the discipline advisor, admitting she was bad with violent things, even sports. She thanked Kanji Aku for taking them, as she didn't know how to dispose of them herself. Kanji Aku realized Mika's hobby was surprisingly watching martial arts. He noted this surprising gap in her personality was a key aspect of her in-game popularity. Kanji Aku decided it was better to focus on Mika's interests, believing she would agree to go with him regardless of her current affection level. The pink-haired girl asked Kanji Aku if he wanted to watch an upcoming martial arts match together. Yua Minamoto eagerly accepted, realizing it was the same match Ogasawara had invited her to. Kanji Aku internally noted that Ogasawara was supposed to progress with the pink-haired girl after the match, not invite her beforehand. The pink-haired girl hesitantly asked Kanji Aku if he was interested too. She then suggested they all go together, believing it would be more fun as a group of 3. Kanji Aku, amused, confirmed Ogasawara's invitation, referencing a past event with the phrase Hawaii wants. Elena mentioned her father's company was sponsoring the match and offered to arrange seats if she had known earlier. Elena conceded she had no choice but to ask for help next time, wondering if she now had backup after conquering both Akira and Kanji Aku. Mahiro greeted Kanji Aku cheerfully. Kanji Aku found Mahiro's prim and proper demeanor cute, noting he had already bought tickets for everyone. The silver-haired girl arrived, apologizing for any wait, but Kanji Aku assured her she was right on time. Kanji Aku confirmed he had bought tickets for everyone and suggested they get going to the match. Mika's route centers on her mental growth, with guts being the critical element. Mika always lacked the courage to start things, but interacting with Shun gradually changed her. She loved watching martial arts, inspired by the fighter's self-challenging emotions, which she herself lacked. The ring and walkway felt incredibly real, filling the pink-haired girl with excitement. Shun was meant to enter a martial arts tournament, but an event now placed him between Ri and Yuka amidst Mika's enthusiasm. The pink-haired girl excitedly pointed out Takedo's entrance, surprised the silver-haired girl knew her favorite fighter. The silver-haired girl asked if the seat next to Kanji was open, only to be told it was assigned. Elena, noting Kanji's lack of friends, revealed she had arranged seats for him through her father, demanding gratitude. Elena, seeing Kanji, asked if he was also there for the matches, mentioning she arranged seats for him because he seemed friendless. A crowd roared in excitement as Takehito made his entrance. The crowd reacted to the fight, noting a painful-looking blow landed precisely where intended. Kanji Aku considered the choices presented: cheer Mika on, stop her, or explain to Elena, realizing the safe option was likely to follow Mika's lead. He mused that the safest choice would be to do as Mika did, then watched as Takehito seemed to gain the upper hand in the fight. Kanji scoffed at the crowd, noting their incessant, noisy cheers for Takehito. He grumbled, expressing his intense dislike for Takehito. A spray of blood suddenly hit Kanji's back, and he braced for the worst. Someone in the crowd, eager to see Takehito lose, was struck down. A warning cry of "watch out" rang out. Kanji Aku gasped, surprised to find himself alive and well. He realized he'd been hit by hair while shielding Mika, which somehow revived him. His life points had dropped drastically, Kanji lamented, though it was better than being shot or stabbed. He decided to skip over the current unfolding situation. Kanji wondered if simple choices would suffice: cheer, intervene, or explain to Elena. The old man's fury flashed in his mind, pushing Kanji to tell Takehito to fight back. Kanji asked the pink-haired girl, who called him Aki, to sit so others could see the match. She apologized and told him to be careful, accepting his request. Kanji breathed a sigh of relief, believing he had made the right choice. The pink-haired girl exclaimed how cool Takehito was in person. Kanji agreed, noting Takehito's powerful presence and asking if she liked that type of guy. She enthusiastically described her admiration for his strength, resilience, and admirable qualities. Kanji noticed new choices appearing: become strong, question his liking, get strong, or get strong together. He considered option 3, let's both get strong, as the safest path to grow closer to her. Kanji suggested they both get stronger, prompting the pink-haired girl to ask why. The silver-haired girl mused that Kanji Aku's situation might foster self-belief, or perhaps something else entirely. She then asked Kanji Aku what he thought of today's match, admitting she found it cool. She described the fighters as refusing to run or hide, battling with all their might and never giving up. Turning to Kanji Aku, she pointed out that he, unlike the fighters, had simply run away from his opponents. She explained that strength could be used for offense or defense, suggesting it was fine to keep it as a trump card or for normal support. Kanji Aku repeated her words, contemplating a trump card he wouldn't use and the concept of moral support. The silver-haired girl declared she would give it her best, wondering if Kanji Aku had sweet-talked someone and encouraging them to enter the ring of life. Kanji Aku found himself at the Rising Gym, where the pink-haired girl recognized him as the rowdy spectator from before and realized he worked there. The pink-haired girl exclaimed that they had finally arrived at the gym. She announced her desire to learn martial arts there, and Kanji Aku confirmed he felt the same. An instructor guided them through proper training, emphasizing balance, pose, and rhythm, which they diligently followed. Exhausted from the training, Kanji Aku and the pink-haired girl headed towards the shower room. Kanji Aku wondered aloud where Mika had disappeared to. He spotted Mika's clothes and exclaimed that leaving them out was a terrible idea. A sudden thought struck him. Could she be showering right now? Choices appeared, and Kanji immediately selected the option to join Yua in the bath. He clicked the button, declaring he would join her. Suddenly blinded by bright light, Kanji cursed, asking why this was happening. A voice encouraged him to join, and he reluctantly agreed, only to be met with another "damn it." Nearby, Jun swore he heard Kanji Aku's voice. Kanji Aku yelled in surprise. Confused, Kanji Aku questioned why he was wearing a maid outfit, and what he was supposed to do. He decided to proceed, noting the bad vibes and realizing he had seriously messed up. Kanji Aku shouted, "Hey!" Kanji Aku let out a frustrated grunt, followed by a sharp cry of pain. He lamented that his current hellish situation, straight out of a battle manga, prevented even a lucky perverted event. Kanji cursed himself for falling for an obvious trap, realizing he had terrible judgment. His life force was rapidly decreasing, seemingly in proportion to his progress in the game, and he feared losing over 20% next time. He mused that the villain's conquest of Mika, requiring both characters to grow stronger, might be linked to the conquest itself. Skip. Kanji considered his options: leave the towel, join her in the bath, watch for others, or go back ahead. He decided leaving the towel was the only viable choice. Mika expressed relief Kanji hadn't left, stating she wanted to give him 300 million points after her shower. Mika suddenly asked if Kanji had looked at her panties, causing him to stammer in denial. She confirmed Kanji had left the towel for her, deducing he must have seen them, and admitting it was her fault. Mika acknowledged Kanji was kinder than expected, deciding to let the incident slide and calling him Aki before correcting herself to Aki. The pink-haired girl called out to Kanji Aku with the nickname Aki. Kanji Aku bid farewell to the pink-haired girl, agreeing to see her at school. The pink-haired girl, Mikako, confirmed that her plan had worked out. Mikako apologized to Kanji Aku, admitting she had misjudged him and no longer found him scary. She found Kanji Aku to be outspoken, serious, and kind, wishing she could get closer to him. After that day, Kanji Aku and Mikako began training together at the gym after school. Through their daily training, Mikako gradually gained more self-confidence. The newly released ice cream, Kanji Aku noted, tasted quite good. With curiosity, Kanji Aku sampled the newly released ice cream. Remarkably, the new ice cream exceeded Kanji Aku's expectations. Yua Minamoto playfully chided Kanji Aku for staring at her so intently, admitting she couldn't help but notice. Kanji Aku felt he had grown mentally stronger since starting the gym, no longer running from pain. He mused that this newfound confidence might be what people called self-assurance. Kanji observed that Mika's growth was vital, even if a villain conquered her, though the process differed from the game's original script. Someone called out, asking if Kanji wanted to spar the next day. Kanji hesitated, uncertain about accepting the unexpected offer. Ogasawara boasted about his conquest of Mika Hawaii proceeding smoothly. Kanji scoffed, thinking Mika must have terrible taste in men. Ogasawara fumed that Mika rejected Toshi, calling her foolish and suggesting they teach her a lesson. Whether Mika's rejection of an upperclassman followed the plot made Kanji wonder if her actions mirrored the game's script. Noticing her bag still resting on the desk, Kanji scanned the room for any sign of Mika's sudden disappearance. Suggesting they return home, Kanji hesitated when he realized Mika had vanished without a trace. New choices flickered on the screen: gym, classroom, or school search, as Kanji dismissed the gym as the wrong solo move. Determined to find Mika, Kanji Aku steeled himself and began scouring the school's interior. Someone questioned Yua Minamoto, asking why she rejected Toshi and what she was trying to achieve. Kanji Aku admitted he feared the girls who always glared and insulted him, worried he'd repeat the same cycle if he ran. Yua Minamoto declared she was done with the situation, as she disliked the person involved. The pink-haired girl accused Yua of enjoying stringing someone along only to reject them, calling her an ugly bitch who used her charms. Yua Minamoto retorted that the situation had nothing to do with the pink-haired girl. The pink-haired girl insisted Yua's face was haughty and she disliked Yua acting cocky, calling her a dumbass. The pink-haired girl lunged to punch Yua again, but Yua dodged, noting the punch lacked power and allowed her to use defensive techniques. Kanji Aku shouted, demanding to know what the pink-haired girl thought she was doing. Someone warned Kanji Aku to know his place, stating Yua was the strongest heroine all guys fell for. The silver-haired girl rushed to check if Yua, whom she called Mika, was okay. Yua Minamoto confirmed she was fine, attributing her self-defense to gym workouts and expressing relief at defending herself, while the silver-haired girl worried about her being jumped. The silver-haired girl snarled, threatening to gouge out eyes and feed them to fish. Kanji Aku questioned her, asking why she had a knife and warning that such weapons were dangerous. Suddenly, game choices appeared before Kanji Aku: sacrifice himself, dodge, apologize, or hit her, realizing a wrong choice could cost him his life. He dismissed dodging and apologizing as unhelpful, and considered sacrificing himself too risky, given his current status. Kanji Aku mused that it didn't seem like Mika was actually attacking the silver-haired girl. He recalled Mika viewed martial arts not as a tool for violence, but as something she genuinely enjoyed. Kanji Aku realized the choices meant he had to risk everything. He declared the correct choice was to fight, unleashing a barrage of attacks, but then faltered in surprise. Kanji Aku warned the attackers not to hit Mika, demanding they understand why they didn't, and threatened them with future disfigurement. The attackers immediately cowered, apologizing profusely. Mika thanked Kanji Aku for saving her, admitting she had been genuinely scared. She then realized she could face them, because she had his moral support, signifying the clearing of Mika's route. The pink-haired girl exclaimed that the affection level hadn't reached 100, meaning it wasn't the ending yet. She explained her scoring: 100 for his intimidating looks, another 100 for the sheer fun of being with him, 30 for his serious demeanor, and a mere 20 for his manliness. She declared her desire to fall deeper in love with Kanji Aku, whom she affectionately called Aki, and expressed a wish to do it. Kanji Aku reacted with surprise, asking what she intended and cautioning her against her actions. The pink-haired girl urged Aki to make her fall for him, to prove his strength, realizing this encounter was why her affection level remained below 100. Kanji Aku understood that fighting her was the only path to winning her heart, noting her uncharacteristic aggression as he agreed to the duel. The pink-haired girl launched a swift, relentless barrage of attacks against Kanji Aku. She questioned why he refused to fight back, asking if he planned to become her samboyag. She pointed out his restraint against other girls and demanded he fight her with all his might now. The pink-haired girl charged forward, her voice ringing out, "AKKY, here I come!" Kanji Aku declared he would never strike a girl he loved, even if it meant his own demise. The pink-haired girl faltered, surprised by his solemn vow. The pink-haired girl confessed her love, her voice trembling as she asked if Kanji Aku truly meant it. She continued, calling him serious, kind, and strong, qualities that belied his dangerous appearance. Her affection level surged to 100, the system proclaiming her conquered. The pink-haired girl whispered his name once more. She promised him all of her first experiences. Kanji Aku remained silent, his expression inscrutable. He acknowledged this outcome, realizing it was the third time such a scenario had unfolded. An apology came, stating no one had anticipated this particular situation. A stern voice warned that they would not be let off so easily next time. Mika greeted Kanji Aku with a cheerful declaration. She had conquered him. Mika questioned why he appeared to be boxing, but her body moved independently, a result of her newfound courage. The pink-haired girl stammered, asking if Kanji Aku had truly called her Aki, before accepting the nickname. She boasted about conquering 3 heroes using this exact method. Kanji Aku questioned the true nature of this world. He wondered what consequences might arise if he chose to take no action. Kanji Aku pondered the world's purpose, its architect, and the repercussions of reaching 0 HP. He recalled his past life as Yudo Hatano, an ordinary student, before awakening as the villain Kanji Aku in the game After School F. Kanji Aku had believed Yua Minamoto to be the sole remaining heroine, but now doubted that certainty. Yua Minamoto greeted him with a flustered, apologetic morning. He acknowledged Yua Minamoto as the quintessential childhood friend heroine, who then returned his greeting. Kanji Aku described her as plump and asked to be allowed past. He observed that Yua Minamoto acted bright and cheerful around the protagonist, but became socially awkward around others. Yua apologized for sleeping in, explaining she'd waited for Kanji Aku to emerge from his room and ended up reaching school before him. Kanji Aku mused that Yua's bubbly demeanor fit the game's plot, where she acted like a cheerful heroine. Approaching Kanji Aku, Ogasawara asked what he was whispering about and mentioned he had something to deliver. Inquiring if Yua acted that way around Kanji Aku, Ogasawara received a reply that he'd never spoken to her. Admitting he hadn't paid much attention, Ogasawara added he'd only ever seen Yua talking to Jun. From Jun's perspective, Kanji Aku noted Yua's bubbly personality was written into the game. She was usually in a lower mode, and he decided to conquer a lone heroine this time. Determined to forge his own path forward, Kanji Aku set aside distractions and focused on his next steps. After conquering Mika, Kanji Aku observed his stats had increased again, though his communication and personal skills remained at a base level. He declared his intention to conquer the final heroine. A pink-haired girl teasingly asked Kanji Aku if he and Ogasawara were a couple, calling it a classic move when teasing childhood friends. Kanji Aku vehemently denied dating Ogasawara, stating they were just friends, while the pink-haired girl noted his polite language and conversational skills. Confirming his progress, Kanji Aku acknowledged securing Ogasawara's route, weighing the choices laid before him. Noting the unavailable option, he questioned why Yua's special trait was problematic, asking where the harm lay in that. Kanji expressed intense self-hatred and apologized. Suddenly, someone shouted, "Wait!" Ogasawara intervened, telling Kanji not to do anything that would upset Yua. Ogasawara declared he would make anyone who hurt Yua pay. Kanji realized Ogasawara was a prototype with a short temper, exclaiming, "This is the end." Kanji awoke in his house, relieved they had safely revived again, fearing he might not have been so lucky this time. He observed his life points had decreased, displaying his name, Aku Kanji. Kanji decided to skip the current scene. He pondered his choices, considering option 3 again, despite having already interfered with the characters. Kanji decided to try option 4, labeled Cowl 4. The pink-haired girl with bright, questioning eyes asked if someone could help her figure something out. She repeated her question, then added, "What's up? So the friend is Akira." The pink-haired girl clarified, she only called out because the person seemed to be in a pinch and their help was greatly appreciated. She then summarized the situation, explaining, "This happened, and that happened, so that's the gist of it." The person she was speaking to responded with a surprised, "I see," followed by a hesitant, "Minamoto." The pink-haired girl continued, describing Kanji Iku as respectable despite his scary looks, a busybody but dependable, and good at taking care of people. Advising the other person to ask Kanji Aku for help if they ever found themselves in trouble, she welcomed them, noting it was the right call to rely on her for backup. Pressing that they should get along with her to not just Ogasawara to make school more fun, she was met with refusal as the other person apologized, branding a Raupoli girl like her as worthless. With tears threatening to spill, she masked her hurt behind a defiant smirk, vowing silently that such words would never break her resolve again. The pink-haired girl repeated that Kanji Aku was a bit of a busybody, but dependable and good at taking care of people. Someone commented that it was rare for Tomosaki to say something like that. The pink-haired girl decided that if she was having fun, then things should be fine. Kanji Aku noted Yua's home was as impoverished as the game's narrative suggested. He considered that Yua's situation, her parents divorced, living with her mother and siblings might be the key to winning her affection. Kanji felt Jun, and he likely shared a similar view of Yua's family, with himself perhaps finding her endearing. Yua's younger sister, Hana Minamoto, and brother, Yuki Minamoto, then returned home. Sensing Yua's guarded nature, Kanji decided to try and win her over by befriending her younger siblings. He introduced himself as Kanji Aku, falsely claiming to be Yua's friend, but felt his attempt was too weak and grew anxious. Kanji admitted this outcome was unexpected, and that he had a trump card ready. He revealed a water card from the popular anime Shiny Fairies, declaring his love for Kirarin. Kanji debated discarding his second card, but ultimately kept it, then asked the siblings if they wanted it. He suggested they all become friends, believing Yua would be pleased if her siblings made more friends, and they nervously agreed. Kanji offered them the card and water as a token of friendship, which the siblings gratefully accepted. Kanji Aku marveled at the sheer number of wafers, realizing Yua's home was far poorer than the game depicted. He understood the children were aware of their family's financial struggles, preventing them from asking for luxuries. Yua suggested they go play in the park, her voice brimming with anticipation. She proposed a game of fairies, followed by a ball game, promising they would play until dusk. Yua playfully declared a sparkly attack, then teased Kanji Aku for his poor performance in the ball game. Kanji Aku readily accepted her playful jabs. He finished his shopping, planning to cook sale items along with Yua's leftovers. Kanji Aku heard a surprised exclamation. He watched Yuki and Hana laughing heartily, a genuine joy he hadn't witnessed before. Kanji Aku questioned Jun's presence, fearing he might have upset the girls or revealed his own somber nature. He worried about the stark contrast between his cheerful home persona and his solitary school life. Noticing Yua's distraction, Jun asked what was wrong, prompting her to begin an explanation. The pink-haired girl called out to Kanji Aku, urging him to hurry as she watched two figures nearby. Yua apologized, stating they had to stop because someone had arrived for Kanji Aku, suggesting they meet again. Yua waved goodbye. A girl with silver hair hesitantly spoke. The silver-haired girl thanked Kanji Aku for playing with her siblings, adding that she had enjoyed herself too. Kanji Aku asked the silver-haired girl if she had told her siblings anything unusual. Kanji Aku mused that the outcome the silver-haired girl feared most was revealing the truth of her situation to the children. He identified this as option 1, the fact. The silver-haired girl, flustered, insisted she had friends like Jun and Ogasawara, denying she lacked them at school. Kanjiaku observed that Ogasawara seemed to be relishing the silver-haired girl's distress. Kanjiaku declared the 3 children were like family, vowing to protect them, though he admitted it was just an option he'd chosen. The silver-haired girl shrieked in frustration. Kanjiaku winced, realizing Ogasawara had struck him hard with a bat, even in his game persona. He checked his health, noting the 20-point loss and the need for greater caution. Kanji mused that Yua seemed shy, a trait not easily discernible in the original game. He considered Yua's kindness and devotion to her family, weighing his options regarding her friends and financial standing. Kanji realized Yua knew he was aware of her father's absence, a fact she had hidden from her siblings. Yua confessed she had lied to her younger siblings about their father working away, promising Kanji she wouldn't reveal the truth. She thanked him profusely, pleading with him to keep her secret safe. Kanji let out a sigh of relief, confirming his choice had been the correct one. Yua waved goodbye cheerfully, promising to see him around. Kanji reviewed his progress, noting Yua's affection points had slightly decreased despite the successful interaction. He reflected that Yua's kindness lay in her comforting lie to her siblings about their father, a key to unlocking her root. Kanjiaku considered his next move, realizing the path ahead remained uncertain. Yua Minamoto playfully teased someone about their public persona versus their private life. The other person stammered denials of any romantic involvement, claiming their actions were simply part of their personality. A voice insisted on friendship, then abruptly retracted the offer, calling the person a liar and attempting to leave. Yua wondered about the person's motives for wanting friendship, feeling content with Jun's understanding. Jun interrupted, reminding Yua that class was about to start and calling her name. Jun hesitantly asked Yua if she wanted to ask him something. Yua admitted she was pondering the true meaning of friendship. Jun reassured her, suggesting it wasn't something to overthink. He explained that friendships naturally form, and those connections are simply called friends. Yua expressed her newfound understanding and trust in Jun, then vowed revenge on Ogasawara for his flirting. Jun's affection for Yua was already high, destined to become lovers unless Kanji intervened. Kanji resolved he couldn't afford to waste time, willing to use any means necessary. The pink-haired girl, Mahiro, spotted Kanjiaku and excitedly called out to him. Mahiro presented a new box of wafers, asking Kanjiaku to help her open it. She happily shared her wafer, revealing a Kirarin card where the character had turned into a cat, and suggested a pretend play. Mahiro then launched into a pretend play of awakened Kirarin, playfully admitting she had been hit. Ogasawara watched them play, surprised that Hana and Yukiki seemed to get along so well with Kanjiaku. He wondered why they appeared to be having more fun with Kanjiaku than with him. Suddenly, Ogasawara noticed a ball rolling away. He immediately offered to retrieve the item. Choices appeared before Kanjiaku, signaling an imminent accident involving Yuki. Kanjiaku declared he would protect Yuki, even at great personal risk. The pink-haired girl announced she would save him immediately, deeming it an obvious choice. A scream of "Jie, ah!" echoed through the area. Someone cried out "Yuck!" in distress. Panicked cries of "Aaa" erupted. Then came a pained groan, "Ooh! Oh!" following the chaos. Another cry erupted, "Ooh! Oh!" pierced the air. The warning voice added it was dangerous, that one could truly die if not careful, ending with a wail. Someone tearfully thanked another, relieved Yuki was safe and promising to scold him later. A person admitted they had misjudged Kanjiaku, expecting a nasty personality but finding him surprisingly direct. Pausing, the pink-haired girl questioned if Kanji Aku was actually a good person, her voice trailing off in uncertainty. Curious, the pink-haired girl asked if Kanji Aku had ever considered mentoring younger students. His blunt honesty intrigued her. Grateful, the pink-haired girl thanked Kanji Aku, hoping he would play with her S18-lings again. He readily agreed. She then asked him not to tell her children about their family situation or her behavior at school, and Kanji confirmed he understood. Kanji noted Yua Minamoto's affection level had risen significantly, realizing her siblings were perfect leverage. He mentioned gaining permission to enter Yua's house and playing with her siblings there more often since that incident. Despite his efforts, Yua's affection level wasn't increasing. She insisted Kanji Aku play fairies and robot battles with her, pushing him to his limit. Yua's younger sister, Hana, called Kanji Kan-ni-chan and asked him to play, but Yua intervened, telling her to stop bothering him and commenting on Hana's apron-clad uniform. Suddenly, Hana shyly invited Kanji Aku to have dinner with them, her face flushing as she asked if he would join. Hana explained she had made extra food to thank him for always playing with her and Yulu, worrying if offering food as thanks was presumptuous. Kanji assured Hana her sentiment was more than enough for him. He accepted her offer, thinking his efforts had finally paid off, and this must be the next plot flag. Hana nervously presented the food, hoping it suited his tastes, and Kanji's eyes lit up at the sight of curry. While Kanji usually preferred sweeter curry, he admitted this version was quite good, and Hana explained she made it sweet for her siblings. After taking another bite, Kanji grinned and said the spice level was perfect for him. He asked if she added honey to balance the heat, and Hana nodded, mentioning it was a family recipe trick. She blushed at his compliment, but insisted she still had much to learn about perfecting flavors. Offering to teach her his mother's sweet curry recipe, Kanji suggested they experiment together next time. The silver-haired girl thanked Kanji Aku for the meal and wished him a safe trip home. The pink-haired girl, flustered, denied liking Kanji Aku when asked by someone, then told them to prepare the bath. Realizing she had never cooked for Jun before, Yua Minamoto felt a pang of regret. Observing Kanji Aku's enjoyment of her food, Yua Minamoto admitted wanting him to eat her cooking regularly. Affirming Kanji Aku's dependability, Yua Minamoto praised his natural ability to care for others. Kanji Aku resolved to pursue his conquest more aggressively. A girl asked to sit beside Kanji Aku, who reluctantly agreed. Someone remarked on the daily maternal role Kanji Aku played, a notion he dismissed as normal. Kanji Aku stared at the screen, frustrated by relationship-building choices, when his focus was on altering their fate. He scanned the options: housekeeper, tennis club, idol, streamer, his curiosity piqued by the tennis club. Kanji chose the tennis club option. He recalled Yua's suggestion that the tennis club would suit his quick reflexes. Yua added he might make new friends, but Kanji dismissed the idea of her becoming his girlfriend as impossible. Suddenly, Kanji noticed rocks beginning to fall from above, shattering his thoughts. He looked up, realizing a flower pot was plummeting towards them. Yua cried out in alarm as the flower pot descended. She screamed Kanji's name, calling out Aku, in sheer panic. Kanji heard her and asked if she was all right, but Yua immediately accused Ogasawara of dropping it. Kanji realized he had made a mistake, lamenting that this world punished perverted thoughts and lustful glances. His life gauge had decreased again, a sign of progress, but also the peril of another misstep. Kanji Aku reflected that his past choices in hero-raising games often led to the correct path when they made the heroines happy. He considered the idol option the most difficult route, believing it could help a shy girl gain confidence and earn money. The pink-haired girl, who called him Aki, stammered in surprise at the idol suggestion, citing her lack of experience. He continued, suggesting that becoming an idol might help her overcome her shyness, lack of confidence, and rebellious nature. Kanji Aku mused that she might not be able to change those aspects of herself, even if she became an idol. The pink-haired girl hesitantly wondered aloud if she could actually do it. Kanji Aku exclaimed in shock as she suddenly began taking pictures of him. She explained that open auditions had screening processes and insisted on taking photos just in case, asking if it was okay. Kanji Aku scoffed, stating that a roadie wouldn't make it, but then commented that he liked the picture and she had no chance of becoming an idol. Several days later, a notice appeared regarding the first screening for the idol auditions. The pink-haired girl congratulated Yua on passing the audition, then chided her for acting without permission and strangely. She told Yua her specs were high, encouraging her to become a cool idol to impress Hana and Yuki. Yua hesitated, worried about causing trouble for her family. The pink-haired girl dismissed her concerns, pointing out that even Kai Rarin from Shiny Fair worked as an idol while a student. She explained the second audition involved singing and dancing, with special training after classes. Yua refused, stating she needed to make dinner and could help afterward. Impressed by Yua's score of 97/124, the pink-haired girl initially suspected a bug, but then attributed it to Yua's skill. Complimenting Yua's reflexes, the pink-haired girl urged her to smile through her shyness, acknowledging their constant practice. Offering to assist with dinner, the pink-haired girl insisted Yua deserved a break after her impressive performance. Yua asked why the pink-haired girl cared for her so much, who replied simply because they were friends. The girl with pink hair recalled an April Fool's app, Idol Yua Master, noting she could tell when Yua acted like an idol. She insisted Yua should have confidence, not just for herself, but for Hana and Yuki's sake as well. Kanji Aku found himself at an audition, the sheer number of attendees leaving him feeling overwhelmed. Yua Minamoto reassured herself they would be fine if they performed as practiced, then declared she was leaving. She was told to think of Hana and Yuki, or even Kanji as a friend if nerves struck, though Kanji was called a weirdo. Yua felt a wave of nervousness, hoping her training would pay off, and that Hana and Yuki would be happy. She resolved to trust in what Kanji had told her. Yua joyfully exclaimed that she had passed the audition. She thanked Kanji but dismissed her success as a fluke, believing luck was a part of ability. Someone called out Minamoto-san. Also present at the audition venue, the silver-haired girl asked if Yua had passed, admitting she had failed her second audition. The silver-haired girl marveled at Yua's success given the tough competition, mentioning social media complaints about only 10 spots from 500 applicants, and that the next audition was the final one. Worrying about her wardrobe, the pink-haired girl fretted over lacking a cute swimsuit for the final auditions contest. She then excitedly accepted Kanji Aku's offer to go swimsuit shopping together. Overwhelmed by the choices, she wondered if any cute swimsuits would suit a roly-poly like herself. Kanji Aku noticed the dialogue choices appear, realizing a wrong pick could ruin his progress with her. He considered the options, noting that Yua had invited him, indicating she had become more positive. Kanji Aku decided to select option 2, let Yua pick it out, to ensure she had no regrets. He mused that the conversation was going smoothly, implying he had chosen correctly, but the girl disagreed about his fashion sense. Kanji Aku pressed, asking if there were any designs that caught her eye. Hesitantly, the pink-haired girl admitted that there were indeed some swimsuits she liked. She pointed out 3 specific swimsuits, asking if she could try them on, much to the shopkeeper's surprise. After trying them on, she shyly asked Kanji Aku for his opinion, calling them super sexy. Kanji Aku declared one swimsuit the definite choice, causing the pink-haired girl to exclaim he was being too loud. Yua Minamoto declared she would go with the swimsuit she had chosen, her voice trembling slightly. She confessed that she used to be afraid of showing herself to others until recently. Yua admitted that she now felt capable of anything when she was with Kanji Aku. She wondered if Kanji Aku was someone who gave her courage, reflecting on her past fears. Kanji Aku noted Yua's affection level had increased after he praised her swimsuit, but it hadn't maxed out yet. He mused that Yua's figure suggested she would do well in the swimsuit contest, gaining confidence if she passed. Kanji Aku offered a silent prayer for everyone's success on audition day. Yua Minamoto, contestant number 42221, introduced herself to the judges and audience, receiving a word of encouragement. Kanji Aku noted that Yua's usual shyness hadn't surfaced, giving him hope for her success. He felt grateful that family and friends were allowed to witness the audition's final stages. Kanji Aku spotted another cute girl among the 1,000 applicants, impressed that she had made it to the finals. A voice apologized for the delay, announcing the next phase of the event. Identifying contestant 38, number 20Z, the announcer praised her clear articulation and appealing charm. Closing the audition, the announcer introduced number 1567 as the last contestant. Following the introductions, the announcer thanked the audience for their patience and enthusiasm. Finally, the event transitioned to a commercial break, signaling a brief pause before the next round. Kanji Aku pondered the game's mechanics, specifically a potential kissing opportunity. Disoriented, Kanji Aku questioned what to say to Yua, realizing he had wandered into a staff-only area. He mused that a certain girl showed real potential, then heard someone speaking nearby. Kanji Aku wondered if the voices belonged to the judges. One judge commented on the contestants' attractive figures, focusing on 4H22, and speculating about her flirtatious nature. The other judge asked why the first judge hadn't chosen 4H22, since she seemed to be his type, and was told it was intentional. The first judge explained he had made the girl wait in the green room to teach her a lesson about seeking attention. A voice called out, demanding to know who Kanji Aku was. The voice elaborated on how a certain girl worked tirelessly each day to care for her siblings after school. Kanji Aku responded with a simple, questioning sound. He was presented with 4 choices: beg, ignore, explain, or attack the person. Kanji Aku declared he would quit the game if making a heroine cry was the correct choice, then yelled that he would beat someone's ass. Someone shouted that a lovely girl shouldn't be addressed that way, and demanded to know what was happening. The same person reiterated that a lovely girl shouldn't be spoken to in such a manner. A voice called out, asking if Kanji Aku was alright after being addressed as C. Sires. Someone yelled at Kanji Aku, calling him a filthy dirtbag and ordering him never to show his face to Yua again. Kanji Aku grumbled that he felt awful, but knew he had made the right decision. He regretted forcing Yua to undergo the audition, fearing it would only amplify her negative traits. The pink-haired girl called out Aku, and then praised him, saying good job out there. Yua Minamoto stammered apologies, her voice thick with tears, admitting she felt inadequate after the audition. She continued to weep, expressing deep regret for Kanji Aku's efforts on her behalf. Kanji Aku reassured her, praising her performance among the many auditioners and dismissing her self-criticism. He gestured, attempting to redirect her attention elsewhere. The pink-haired girl excitedly told Kanji Aku she'd watched his audition and thanked him for his encouragement. She commented that he already had friends and bid him farewell until school. Kanji Aku hesitantly agreed that her observation might be true. A notification flashed, announcing Yua Minamoto's affection level had reached 100, marked as UP. Yua confessed that Kanji Aku had made every day fun for her. She admitted Kanji felt different from Jun, and she found herself wanting to be with him more. Yua stammered, realizing her feelings had grown into something more profound. Finally, Yua blurted out, "I love you, Aku," with a blush. Kanji returned her confession, admitting, "I love you, too." Yua shyly called out his name, Aku. He hesitated, asking if she wanted to proceed. "If you want to do it, I—" Her voice trembled faintly as she replied, "I think I do." A lingering thought crossed his mind: could villains truly kiss without feeling? Maybe, he considered, even someone like him could grow accustomed to warmth. The pink-haired girl excitedly described a cool music video, with great dancing and singing. She then suggested they audition as idols, asking Kanji for his help again. Kanji reflected that he had now conquered all 4 heroines, including Yua, and wished to return home. A soft beep echoed, drawing Kanji's attention. He responded with a thoughtful "hmm?" Kanji questioned what he was seeing, noting the start of a second stage. A stern voice from the teacher's office declared Kanji-aku was not allowed to go. The decree continued. Kanji-aku couldn't go on the school trip, shocking him as Chapter 5 began, focusing on Mahiro's case. Kanji exclaimed in disbelief, demanding clarification on the meaning of this restriction. He realized that just when he thought he had conquered all the heroines, a second stage had begun. The word "start" appeared, signaling the commencement of this new phase. Kanji wondered aloud if this indeed meant the second stage would now begin. He recalled the original game's popular 4-day, 3-night school trip to Okinawa, remembering the aquarium and the beach. Kanji envisioned watching the sunset from a beachside cafe, a romantic image from the game. He had high hopes the second stage would kick off with the school trip, but it turned out otherwise. Kanji-aku acknowledged the situation with a simple "I see." Yua Minamoto explained that Kanji-aku couldn't go on the school trip because he hadn't paid the 200 yen fee. Kanji-aku lamented his lack of funds, questioning why Yua was being dramatic about such a small amount, while Yua countered that she'd pay if she had the money and suggested he give her some instead. Yua Minamoto then offered to buy him souvenirs, calling him Akira-chan in a teasing tone. The pink-haired girl playfully offered Kanji-aku 100 yen, telling him to stop teasing and calling him Aki. Kanji-aku noticed the pink-haired girl's arrival, remarking, "Aki, oh?" Kanji-aku told Yua the teacher allowed him 2 weeks to pay the fee, but he still lacked the funds. Yua Minamoto suggested Kanji-aku get a part-time job to earn the money. The idea lingered in Kanji-aku's mind as he mused, a part-time job, huh? Faced with 2 options, work a part-time job or don't work, Kanji-aku realized a job was his only path to Okinawa. Pondering whether he could earn 12,000 yen in 2 weeks, Kanji-aku resolved to take a part-time job. The pink-haired girl offered to suggest a perfect place for him to work. Kanji-aku considered the resort hotel group his family owned, noting their staffing shortages. He realized Elena's family's establishment was a perfect opportunity to earn the 12,000 yen he needed. Kanji accepted the offer, promising to inform his father of the arrangement. He excitedly declared his intention to work hard, heading to Okinawa with everyone else. Thanks to Elena's recommendation, Kanji skipped school for 2 weeks, including Golden Week, to work at a resort hotel restaurant. He lived in the dorms, received all meals, and found the work rewarding despite the steep learning curve. Mahiro, a 21-year-old woman, complimented Kanji on his skills and appearance, calling him her type. Kanji was shocked by Mahiro's directness. Mahiro teasingly accused Kanji of ogling her chest, finding his reaction endearing. Kanji awkwardly agreed to meet Mahiro later, still flustered. He marveled at how many plates a human could carry at once. A soft sound escaped as someone offered comfort, saying, "There, there." The silver-haired girl presented a service called Mr. Rabbit, marveling at a rabbit. Elena praised the advice given, noting its departure from textbook methods. Kanji Aku observed that the person could indeed perform such actions. He found the contrast between the immature face and capabilities delightful, anticipating future fun. Kanji Aku grumbled, admitting he was exhausted from his efforts. He noted 11 more workdays remained, excluding holidays, and felt the fatigue, intending to bathe soon. A sudden knock echoed through the room. Kanji Aku greeted the visitor, explaining his bath was out of order. The visitor commented on Kanji's attire before asking to borrow the bath, to which Kanji hesitantly agreed. The visitor, now inside, expressed thanks and prepared to use the bath. Kanji Aku realized Mahiro was in his room, reacting with shock. Kanji Aku mused that no choices had appeared yet, unlike the usual obstacles he faced before events. Yua Minamoto thanked Kanji Aku for the bath, her voice cheerful. Kanji Aku stammered, asking why Yua chose to sit right next to him. He admitted he didn't know where to look, feeling flustered by Yua's close presence. Calling him cute for being nervous, Yua teased him, then seemed to reconsider her words. Close enough for him to catch her scent, Yua's laughter softened into a thoughtful hum. Wondering aloud if today was Kanji Aku's first day, Yua asked if he'd faced any troubles, which he denied. Earnestly, Yua assured him he could tell her if anything bothered him, her expression unwavering. She promised to do anything within her power for him, her voice filled with resolve. Kanji Aku vowed to work hard so he wouldn't cause trouble, but Yua playfully called him a weirdo. Yua declared they should both give it their best tomorrow, to which Kanji Aku agreed. Kanji Aku mused that Mahiro, a conquerable heroine absent from the main game story, was a new variable he hadn't accounted for. Yua Minamoto burst in, announcing her arrival and finding Kanji Aku working hard. Kanji Aku questioned why they had all shown up, and Yua demanded a proper greeting. Yua offered a menu and Kanji Aku welcomed her as Mrs., before thanking her. The pink-haired girl, calling him Aki, insisted she wasn't worried, but only wanted to ensure he didn't embarrass her after she got him the job. The silver-haired girl expressed her concern for him working all day and offered her support. Kanji Aku gratefully accepted the handmade cookies Yua had made, exclaiming his delight. The silver-haired girl complimented his uniform, advising him to be well-mannered, while thinking Kanji Aku soothed her heart. He insisted he wasn't like the others, and was only concerned about potential trouble, thanking Heirazumi and vowing to give his best. With a nod, he turned to leave, his steps steady yet purposeful. Determination in his voice, he affirmed his commitment to working hard. Elena's bodyguard, dressed in black, apologized for the wait before startling Kanji Aku. The pink-haired girl exclaimed that the food looked lovely and delicious. She added that these limited menu items were incredibly cute. She encouraged Kanji Aku to enjoy his meal, noting the black tea tasted great. The pink-haired girl sighed, admitting she was wiped out today, as always. She expressed surprise that the customers seemed so pleased with the food. She raved about the tasty cake and black tea, mentioning the chef's care, and wondered if Kanji Aku understood. The pink-haired girl declared her intention to go to Okinawa, no matter what. Determined to work her hardest again tomorrow, she resolved. Reflecting on the work's challenges yet smooth progress, she felt. Mentioning everyone's cheers and playful warnings, she added, admitting evenings posed the biggest struggle, she explained. Sighing in satisfaction, she thought the drink hit the spot. Hoping someone would address her revealing outfits, she stared. The pink-haired girl asked Kanji Aku if he played with himself when he felt horny. Kanji Aku exclaimed in surprise, calling the question too direct and a secret. The pink-haired girl laughed, finding Kanji Aku's innocence amusing. She then turned the question back, asking Kanji Aku about his own habits. Kanji Aku stammered, realizing he was being asked by an older woman. He admitted he did it alone, then immediately regretted it. The pink-haired girl, Mahiro, loudly questioned Kanji-aku's statement. Mahiro then urged Kanji-aku to hurry and bathe before leaving, as it was already midnight. Kanji-aku wondered if they could go to the bathhouse together, fearing a death trap. It turned out that staff members could use the bathhouse after midnight. Kanji-aku accepted Mahiro's drunken offer to join her in the bath, wanting only to finish and leave. The pink-haired girl playfully threatened Kanji-aku, suggesting she'd scream if he didn't take off his clothes, then admitted she was just kidding. She then pushed him away, complaining about his actions behind her bag, and urging him to finish quickly. Kanji-aku asked what she thought he was using to wash her, prompting her to hesitantly guess his chest. Kanji-aku confirmed her guess with a triumphant bingo. The pink-haired girl shrieked in disbelief and begged him to stop. Kanji-aku let out a surprised "ah." She yelped and scrambled away, exclaiming that he had run off. Kanji-aku found himself unable to sleep at all. He heard encouragement, acknowledging his 2 weeks of straight work and wishing him luck on his last day. Kanji-aku apologized for earlier, asking if it had put her off. The pink-haired girl apologized for her earlier behavior and expressed her anticipation for working with Kanji-aku tomorrow. Declaring her last day of work concluded smoothly, she confirmed there had been no issues. With a glance at the clock, she confirmed her final tasks were completed without complications. Counting her earnings, she gasped aloud upon discovering she had received 14,000 yen. Eagerly, she announced that the money meant she could go on the school trip to Okinawa. With trembling hands, she clutched the envelope to her chest, her heart pounding wildly. Tears of joy pricked her eyes as she imagined snorkeling in Okinawa's turquoise waters. Someone suggested a wrap-up party since it was her last day. Eagerly, she agreed to the party plan. With a smile, she invited all her coworkers. Generously, she provided ample food, relieved that her companion appeared sober today after yesterday's drunken episode. Acknowledging the sentiment of loneliness, she reminded her colleague that her employment was only temporary. With a smirk, she suggested they prioritize earning cash over academic struggles, her tone sharp but playful. Urging Kanji-aku to embrace making money, she dismissed school as dull. Kanji-aku mused that he'd likely die countless times more to escape this world, but he refused to endure boring days. The pink-haired girl confessed that spending time with Kanji-aku after work was enjoyable. He was nice, kind, and fun. Kanji-aku reacted with surprise to her confession. The pink-haired girl beamed with happiness. She then asked to spend more time together, promising to help him forget unpleasant things. Kanji-aku questioned her meaning. The pink-haired girl directly stated her romantic interest in him. Kanji-aku asked if she was serious. She reminded him of their intimate bath moments as proof of her sincerity. The pink-haired girl revealed she had liked Kanji-aku since their first meeting and had visited him nightly, overjoyed he felt the same. The pink-haired girl pleaded with Kanji-aku to stay with her forever. She promised to grant his every wish if he would only remain by her side. Kanji-aku faced a critical choice: stop her or stay with her, a familiar dilemma. He selected the option to stay with the pink-haired girl. Kanji-aku rationalized that staying might end his suffering and painful experiences, especially since he couldn't even secure a kiss. He considered staying with Mahiro-san, believing it might lead to a less painful existence. Kanji-aku received a message from Elena, reminding him that people already supported him and romance had always been impossible for him. He declared his true purpose was to go to Okinawa, not to flirt with Mahiro-san. Kanji-aku chose to stop, unable to betray those who had supported him so earnestly. He apologized, confused by the pink-haired girl's reaction. The pink-haired girl encouraged him not to hold back his feelings. Kanji-aku apologized again, stating he couldn't forget certain people. Yua acknowledged Kanji's sincerity, teasing him about his potential before letting out a soft laugh. She declared she would drink all night, and insisted Kanji stay with her until sunrise. Kanji counted the passing minutes, his attention fixed on the time. Yua confirmed that Kanji was now free to go on the trip. Kanji excitedly exclaimed his arrival at the teacher's office. He declared that his rom-com school life was finally beginning in earnest. Joyfully, he announced his imminent arrival in Okinawa. With a mix of dread and confusion, the island's silence greeted him. Suddenly, memories of the villain's ominous warning flooded his mind. Panicked, he scanned the horizon, stranded and questioning his fate. Cursing his luck, Aku stumbled through the wreckage, calling for survivors. He checked his waterproof watch. It still worked despite the complete lack of phone reception. Frustrated, Kanji questioned what kind of twisted game this had become. He considered the possibility that other survivors might have washed ashore on the island with him. Suddenly, Kanji spotted a familiar figure in the distance, his eyes widening in surprise. He called out, asking if Elena was all right after the crash. Elena stirred, groaning as she asked where she was, and noting Kanji was awake too. She recalled the plane accident and their subsequent washing ashore, disbelief coloring her words. Kanji confirmed the crash, but admitted he didn't know the whereabouts of the other passengers. Elena expressed dismay at the thought of being stranded alone with Kanji on the island. She then resolved to figure out their next steps, acknowledging their dire predicament. The pink-haired girl asked Kanji if he wanted to explore with her, feigning distress at the thought of being left alone. She insisted he was coming with her, her tone leaving no room for refusal. Kanji agreed. Kanji confirmed he would go with her. They reported having already searched the beach and the forest. The pink-haired girl called out, "Aki!" Someone exclaimed in surprise. Kanji greeted everyone, relieved to see them safe. Jun expressed relief that Kanji and the pink-haired girl were safe, noting no one else was nearby. The pink-haired girl wondered what the others were doing and hoped they would be saved. Kanji echoed the sentiment. Kanji found himself distracted by the revealing outfits of the women present, despite the serious situation. Elena adamantly refused, scoffing at Kanji Aku's perceived confidence and questioning his ability to survive. She insisted that making a fuss wouldn't help, and that waiting for rescue in their deserted location was impossible. Yua tried to calm Elena, agreeing that as high schoolers, they were ill-equipped for survival and lacked options for seeking help. Kanji Aku observed the available choices: escape, wait for rescue, live there, or all of the above, with a warning about losing affection points. He pondered the safest options, recalling advice that conserving energy by waiting for rescue was a good strategy. Kanji Aku decided waiting for rescue was better than acting without a plan, and the lack of immediate events confirmed his correct choice. Elena dismissively told Kanji Aku to suit himself, clearly unimpressed with his decision. She then stormed off, warning him not to follow, but Kanji Aku called out to her, asking where she was going. Kanji Aku realized with dismay that despite not dying, his affection points with Elena had been halved after conquering her. He worried about Elena's well-being, wondering if she would be all right on her own. A loud stomach rumble echoed through the silence. Despite their dire situation, the pink-haired girl announced she was hungry and would search for edible items while they rested. Kanji Aku lamented that he had involved the girls in his mess and vowed to prevent them from having further unpleasant experiences. Yua gasped in surprise. The pink-haired girl pointed, asking if the berries were edible. The silver-haired girl confirmed the berries were edible, recalling seeing them at a botanical garden. Jun startled Kanji Aku, apologizing for the scare and offering to help with food preparation, which Kanji accepted. Jun asked to be pushed further right, feeling Yua's thighs against his face, then apologized to Kanji for spacing out and thanked him for the treat. The pink-haired girl and the silver-haired girl announced they had found edible food. The pink-haired girl noted the berries were sour, but edible, lamenting their current lack of luxury and anticipating delicious food once they returned. Kanji Aku observed that choices had appeared, but only one option was available: give some to Elena. A single choice appeared: give beep. Choosing to share some with Elena, Kanji Aku bid farewell as the pink-haired girl departed. Realizing solitude might prove insurmountable, Kanji Aku exhaled sharply despite his earlier resolve. Noticing Yua Minamoto's approach, Kanji Aku straightened his posture instinctively. Yua called out to Kanji, asking what he was doing. Kanji responded with a simple, questioning "eh?" Suddenly a warning cry of "look out" echoed. Kanji could only manage a surprise day, as something happened. A sharp pain struck Kanji's eyes, followed by a scream and a strange kia hai. Kanji felt his consciousness fading, murmuring that he was losing it. He awoke on a beach, wondering if snake poison had killed him. Kanji noticed his life had dropped by 30, realizing this was his restart point. He recalled the first option was to wait for rescue, a choice he always died immediately after making incorrectly. Kanji Aku asked Elena if she wanted to explore the surroundings with him, noting it was time to regroup. Elena refused, stating she'd rather stay with a sea roach than work with him. Kanji Aku was shocked to see Elena Hirazumi's affection level drop, despite his attempt to ask her along. He worried he was stuck in a death loop, lacking options and losing affection points, without a regrouping event. Elena's bodyguard called out to Kanji Aku, telling him to hold up. The bodyguard questioned where Kanji Aku was going, insisting a young lady couldn't survive alone on a deserted island. Kanji Aku retorted, calling the bodyguard fish food, which caused Elena Hirazumi's affection level to decrease by 10 points. He then commented on the pretty sea, causing Elena Hirazumi's affection level to drop another 40 points. Kanji Aku suggested they both live alone, which somehow resulted in another affection level change for Elena Hirazumi. Kanji Aku wondered if the affection counter was malfunctioning, as it seemed to be actively antagonizing him. He then realized he had been able to see the affection counter the entire time. Yua Minamoto snapped at Kanji Aku, accusing him of staring at her with disgust. She pointed out that his clothes were see-through, revealing her underwear. Yua called Kanji a perverted plankton and an irredeemable perv maggot for not telling her sooner. Kanji Aku heard a shout, "Ryan, look out!" He recognized the voice warning about the poisonous snake from earlier. Kanji Aku asked if she meant the snake they encountered before. A voice yelled, "Ora, off with you." Kanji Aku breathed a sigh of relief, glad he wouldn't have to die again. He heard a quiet, "Thanks," followed by a surprised, "Oh?" Kanji Aku pondered Elena Hirazumi's strange expression. A notification appeared. Elena Hirazumi's affection level increased, making Kanji wonder if this was his chance. Kanji Aku heard a confused "huh? What?" The silver-haired girl thanked Kanji Aku for being with her, despite calling him a maggot. She quickly retracted her thanks, insisting his earlier rescue wouldn't make her develop feelings for him. A notification popped up, showing Elena Hirazumi's affection level was already topped off. Elena then asked if this meant she could finally have her revenge match. Ogasawara arrived, greeting Kanji Aku and Elena, and noting a strange sense of déjà vu that felt like a game bug. The pink-haired girl exclaimed in amazement as something lit up, wondering why it happened. She explained the phenomenon as convergence, a method to start a fire by focusing light, which Kanji Aku seemed to understand. Kanji Aku suggested they explore before sunset to find a water source, and Mika agreed, stating she couldn't function when hungry. Mika enthusiastically agreed to work together on finding food. Kanji Aku narrated that they had gathered food from the forest and the sea. He confirmed they had water and fire, but expressed concern over some strange-looking mushrooms mixed in with their food. One girl suggested they take a bath using a drum can found on the beach, offering to boil seawater for it. Another girl enthusiastically agreed, eager to set up the bath immediately. Addressing Kanji Aku, Yua asked if he wanted to join, made him last, and warned him not to peek. Eagerly, she organized the bath supplies, double-checking every item with meticulous care. With a sly grin, she tested the water temperature, muttering about perfect conditions. Finally, she clapped twice, signaling the group to gather while keeping a watchful eye on Kanji. One girl exclaimed it was a valuable experience, never having done something like it before. She repeated her amazement, stating she was so impressed. Yua invited Elena to join the bath, to which Elena hesitantly agreed. As they prepared to undress, Yua teased Elena about her embarrassment, a claim Elena vehemently denied. Elena gasped, caught off guard. Someone commented on the bath's warmth, and the response was a simple, agreeable nod. The pink-haired girl excitedly declared they would join, teasing Kanji about how he'd crush Elena in the cramped space. With a wink, she lewdly compared Kanji's and Mika's chests to melons, playfully suggesting she'd join them for the experience. Grinning mischievously, she imagined herself squeezed between them, teasing Kanji about his reaction to the tight quarters. Her voice dripping with mock innocence, she suggested they'd all fit perfectly, nudging Mika to agree while eyeing Kanji's discomfort. Elena's bodyguard suggested rewarding Kanji for his cooking, but Elena stammered that she hadn't agreed to anything when he offered her something. Elena reluctantly agreed, sighing that it couldn't be helped. She then offered Kanji a bite, warning him about the poisonous affection level. Kanji realized he had let his guard down, recognizing the mushroom as poisonous, but mused that few men would refuse a cute girl's offer. Kanji gasped, feeling the mushroom's effects take hold. He groaned in discomfort. Yua taunted Kanji, asking if he was happy being fed by Elena, and calling him perverted trash for shaking. Admitting to himself, Kanji acknowledged his mistake. This death marked Kanji Aku's first meaningful end, he reflected. For the first time, Kanji Aku considered the weight of his demise. With a voice laced with disbelief, Kanji Aku declared his life had plummeted. The trap's design became clear to Kanji Aku, meticulously crafted to exploit his deepest cravings. A cold certainty gripped Kanji Aku as the walls of his fate closed in. Kanji mused that he would experience it again if he had surplus life, but this time he had to choose. The mushroom screamed poisonous, Yua warned him, and she refused to be a test subject. Refusing further debate, Yua crossed her arms and reiterated the mushroom's danger. A raft tomorrow sounded fun, Yua suggested, her tone brightening at the thought. Kanji agreed to help but asked where they should go. Yua mentioned spotting a small island while foraging, one Kanji hadn't noticed, attributing it to Mika. She added that items on the beach could serve as building materials, making it worth a shot. Kanji Aku decided to get an early night, preparing himself for the next day's challenges. He mused that unity was key for the upcoming event, doubting a raft built by 4 girls would be easy to manage. Kanji Aku expressed his hope to survive the event, a constant worry in this world. The next day, a proper raft stood complete, though Kanji Aku questioned its safety given the makeshift materials. He wondered if making such a raft was truly that simple, suspecting the materials were prepared beforehand. A pink-haired girl called out to him, "Aki! Aki!" Kanji Aku, startled, confirmed he was all right. The group planned to set off tomorrow, agreeing to eat and head to bed early. Later, Kanji Aku found himself unable to sleep, tossing and turning. The pink-haired girl, calling him Aki, asked if he was having trouble sleeping. Kanji admitted he felt uneasy after their raft trip, his fear of failure causing chest pain. He felt ridiculous for suggesting the raft trip, but the pink-haired girl reassured him. Mika promised to do everything in her power to protect them if anything happened. Kanji mused that her words sounded like a manga protagonist's, wishing he had been one for an easier life. Feeling better after talking, Kanji thanked Mika, who wished him good night. Kanji resolved that he had to be the one to save the day if trouble arose. Someone loudly asked if everyone was ready. A voice declared they were setting off. Someone exclaimed they had traveled quite a distance from the beach. Another person commented that things were going rather well. A voice urged them to keep rowing the raft. Someone questioned why Kanji Aku was tilting the raft, only for him to deny it. Panic erupted as the raft broke apart and they began to drown. A character tried to calm everyone, but acknowledged it wouldn't solve their predicament. Kanji Aku was presented with 4 choices: return to the island, keep going, conserve energy, or listen to opinions. Kanji Aku cursed, realizing a mistake would mean death again, but this time others were involved. He understood that all of them would be implicated if he failed. Kanji Aku feared he might trigger a death ending for everyone. He realized all his previous conquests and time spent with them would vanish if he failed. Kanji Aku resolved to figure something out and help them all. Kanji urged them to keep going, his voice firm despite the circumstances. Yua apologized, blaming herself for suggesting they build a raft in the first place. Someone retorted that reaching land was better than drowning, regardless of the raft's fate. Another suggested making the raft compact to ease rowing, praising the idea. Kanji decided to swim and push the raft, believing his choice was correct as nothing bad happened. He declared he would row with all his might. Another person offered to help Kanji row. Suddenly, a loud shout shattered the quiet. A panicked voice cried out Kanji's name, asking if he was okay. Gasping, Kanji felt his energy deplete and feared drowning as he apologized for his mistakes. This after-school flare story game, Kanji Aku mused, was one he'd stumbled upon by chance. Flickering faintly, the remnants of Kanji's resolve dissolved into the abyss, leaving silence. He realized he had received the wrong order, but since it wasn't expensive, he figured he could sell it if he didn't like it. Hooked on the new world, Kanji discovered a fascination with genres beyond his usual fighting and action games. Exploring menus he'd never touched before, Kanji experimented with crafting and exploration mechanics. Yet lingering doubts surfaced. Kanji wondered if his old gaming habits would clash with this unfamiliar style. Eventually, he shrugged and dove deeper, determined to master this unexpected passion. Suddenly, a pink-haired girl anxiously called out, asking if Tomasada-san or Eiki was all right. Kanji Aku groaned, assuring her he was indeed okay. He pointed out a boat approaching their raft, certain they had been noticed and would soon be rescued. Kanji confirmed that they could finally head back home. Kanji Aku recalled the praise he, Mika, and Elena received for their hard work on the raft, with a partial mention of Akira. A voice beckoned Kanji Aku to come over. Kanji Aku wondered if conquering all the heroes had led them to decide to save him, then winced in pain. Yua Minamoto scolded Kanji Aku, telling him he seemed to be having a bad nightmare and calling him a dumbass. Kanji Aku recognized his surroundings, asking if this was. The pink-haired girl urged Kanji Aku to wake up, reminding him they were already in Okinawa and questioning why they didn't just go there safely from the start. Despite sleeping, Kanji Aku felt strangely exhausted, wondering if he'd slept wrong, while Jun admitted to feeling mentally beat up.